Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to
Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men. We will graduate players. And we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Been in college baseball for a while now, but I've never experienced anything like 12th man.
The other schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
this one's special. The 12th man this past week was unbelievable.
The epitome of what this team has done, right? Gavin homers, Jace homers, Braden homers, Chris Cortez, 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
I got a vision that baseball goes all the way till June 24th, June 25th, OB, something like that, to win the College World Series, and that'll give us, only 2 weeks off before SEC Media Days? Or 3 weeks? 3 weeks.
Maybe three.
More like 3. I think that'd be the perfect off-season. Hey, everybody. TexAgs Radio here, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. The Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Today is Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. I'm David Nuño. He's our Heisman Trophy columnist and voter, and what else are you?
Just the old guy around TexAgs.
Old guy around TexAgs. Yeah, that's pretty much the truth. Possibility, buddy. Like, there's a chance. You know,
absolutely.
You got to take care of business this weekend. You got to take care of business in Omaha. So I'm not going that far ahead, but I like the idea of these shorter off seasons because basketball gives us a lot to talk about. Obviously, college football always gives us a lot to talk about. But like having this storyline with a team that can, and I'm going to go ahead and say should win it all. That's how I feel right now. They should win it all. I hope they win it all.
I don't know if they should. I know that they are a strong contender. I imagine there are people up in Lexington.
Should and could.
And Lexington and Knoxville that probably feel like they should, you know.
Yeah. Tennessee's good.
But you know what? I'm not looking that far ahead. I just want to beat the Ducks. And I think they will.
Duck hunting, baby.
Yeah, go duck hunting. By the way, I noticed that the high temperature expected on Saturday is 97 degrees.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not 100.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah. I wonder if they're used to that there in the Pacific Northwest.
Gosh, I hope not.
I hope not either.
I hope they melt. I'll take every advantage I can get.
I'm going to do a little quick Oregon temperature right now. Okay?
Well, it's
54 degrees.
Yeah, the sun may not be up yet.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's just play a game then. Let's call it. You tell me a time.
Well, let's say there's a rumor, and I don't know if there's anything to it, that the game might start at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock in the afternoon. Actually, it's kind of warm there, 2 o'clock. 85 degrees.
85.
Okay. It's not 96.
Yeah, there's a big difference. That 10 extra degrees there is.
But the 54 degrees right now, not bad. Not bad at all.
No. Yeah, I'd like to wake up at 54 degrees.
So Bronny yesterday on the board said he's hearing that it's going to probably be a Saturday series, beginning Saturday, and potentially starting around lunchtime or a little bit after that. So there you go. That's where it could be.
Yeah, and of course, you know, what that temperature in the Pacific Northwest there, even when it gets up there, what it doesn't include is the humidity.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I want it to be as miserable for them as possible.
I just went outside yesterday. It was like you could feel the mugginess, you just sweat days.
Yeah, yeah. And I sweat a lot anyway. I mean, I can sweat in the dead of winter. So,
yeah,
when it's hot like this, I just walk outside and I just start. Looks like I jumped in the pool.
I feel like every time I bring this up, I got to preface it. Yes, the same guy that I went to war with on the radio a couple years ago.
SEC Mike,
who we're friendly. Okay. Yeah. I should not get mad at somebody's business model, right?
Okay.
I think his business model, and he's actually said it on Feinbaum shows, to say things, for attention, and then he backs it up with his reasons, right?
Okay.
That makes sense.
That's fine.
Right? And sometimes I'm not saying him in particular, but him and others, sometimes I think you say things because you enjoy the fight, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you enjoy the fight until the fight is on. You don't. I mean, maybe you do.
No, whenever I make a statement, I hope I always have some facts
to back it up.
Now, we may debate the validity of those facts or how important they are, but I like to think that all my opinions are based on facts or personal experiences.
Sure, and I think SEC Mike does a good job about that. I disagree with a lot of his takes.
Okay.
Every once in a while, I agree with his takes. Sometimes I wonder where his takes come from, and then he finds a way to kind of connect it together. So I saw the headline yesterday. I did not hear the bite on purpose because I wanted to give you a natural reaction here on the show. But I do know what it's about, that he thinks A&M will finish better than Texas. Okay? Now, that's how the Feinbaum wrote the tweet. Have you heard the soundbite yet?
No.
Okay. Let's listen to it live on the air and see what we think about it. All right, here's SEC Mike yesterday with Paul Feinbaum.
I think Texas A&M finishes better than Texas this year in the SEC. Tell me I'm wrong.
I just have to hear that one more time. You just got through saying to us that Texas A&M will finish higher than the University of Texas?
Yeah. Give me both around probably 9-3, 10-2 type, but I think the difference is going to be in College Station late in the season, last game of the regular season, the game that that state's been waiting over a decade plus for. The fact it's in College Station, I like the edge Texas A&M. I think Texas is severely overrated because of what they did in the Big 12 last year.
Yep. So, while most of the world thinks that's far-fetched, okay, let's examine why it could be true.
Okay. Do you have any?
Well, I mean, we can start. And Carson, while I'm doing this, can you look up what Texas's preseason rankings have been the last 5 years, please? Just look that up and write it down when we get to you. We'll kind of circle back to that because I feel like every year, minus last year, they have these high aspirations. So does A&M, by the way. And they crash and burn, all right? More often than not in the last 5 years. Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So why is that possible? Well, the first thing is the obvious. It's an SEC schedule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Texas damn near lost Houston and TCU and Kansas State and, quite frankly, struggled with Wyoming last year. And if you don't show up with your A game in SEC play 4 times, you're probably going to expect to lose 2, and you might lose 4.
Yep. So there's that. By the way, you can make the argument, well, Georgia almost lost a bunch of games in looking through what they did last year.
That's my point.
They didn't, though. Yeah.
But the fact is they didn't show up with their A game, the team that was probably the most talented, and damn near lost to Missouri and somebody else. Because if you're not ready to play in the SEC,
you will lose.
You may very well lose, whereas, you don't show up to play Kansas State, and you might escape, especially if the coach makes a terrible decision at the end of the game.
People tell me that Texas has the second most talent in the SEC.
Okay.
I don't know how you evaluate that, if you're just basing it on stars from high school or if you're basing it on what, like, has somebody actually made a database and compiled all those numbers? I don't know. I think they're a very talented team. They get players. But they've always gotten players.
Well, Texas should be a talented team, just as A&M should be a talented team, because we're in a state just teeming with talent.
Now let's go on. I don't think their schedule is tough in the SEC this year, Texas, for SEC standards, right? They have Vanderbilt,
Mississippi State. Of course, A&M plays Mississippi State as well.
They get
Arkansas.
They get Georgia at home. If you're going to beat Georgia, I would assume at home would be better than
right.
And I have my questions about Georgia, by the way. But regardless, you get Michigan the year after a national championship, and everybody leaves. So you're an SEC team. They're a Big Ten team, but brand-wise, Michigan is better than Texas right now, brand-wise, because they won a national championship. They've been in the playoffs often.
Right, but the thing about Texas that I don't get that nobody notices. Look, I will acknowledge Texas has one of the best offensive lines in the country, and we understand. No one understands it the importance of that position or that area than we do.
Yep.
And they have a really, really good quarterback that'll probably be a first-round draft choice. Mm-hmm. And their running backs are good. Cedric Baxter, really good. So, but their receivers, they got in the guy from Alabama. He was all right, but, is he really better than the two guys they lost? I don't think so. And then, Texas. The strength of Texas's defense last year was you couldn't run on them. You know why? Because they had two behemoths that could really play at tackle. And one was a first-round pick and one was a second-round pick. They're not there anymore.
Right.
And Texas's defensive backfield, and they've added to it with some transfers and everything, but they were one of the worst in the country in pass defense last year.
Yeah.
So, and that's when they were often put in a position where teams had to throw because they wasn't able to run. So you know it's coming.
So the spirit of this conversation, though, is how can that be true? And that can be true based on –
that's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm circling back to is 9-3, 10-2. Are there 3 potential losses on Texas's schedule? Georgia's a potential loss. Michigan's a potential loss. Texas A&M's a potential loss. Any other one jump out? Maybe Oklahoma, a potential loss. I'm not saying they're losing these. I'm saying these are games that –
I'm trying to remember who else is on their schedule.
Florida.
Where?
At DKR.
Okay. Imagine that. They play Mississippi State.
They are at Arkansas. And I think Arkansas is going to be a train wreck. But
yeah, I believe that Texas's schedule is as advantageous as it can be in the SEC.
But are 3 losses on that schedule possible?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Are 3 losses possible for Texas A&M? Because this is and it goes back to
more are possible.
More are possible. Can you believe that they get to 9-3?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that's how this whole thing can happen. Can Texas lose 3 games this year? Can A&M only lose 3 games this year? Both things are possible. And to me, that 9-3 means beating Texas on the last game of the regular season.
Yeah, you could, or A&M could already have it wrapped up by then, or Texas could have it wrapped up by then. But I don't want to allow myself to expect too much from A&M until I see a reason to. And yet, I keep finding reasons to be optimistic, and I one of the same things I've repeated so often is how many times A&M was that close to winning in the fourth quarter against Alabama and Tennessee and Ole Miss and LSU, and you let it get away, and you were so poorly coached and, quite frankly, conditioned. And those things have changed.
Let's also see something else. SEC Mike yesterday he tweeted. Dave Campbell's his preview has this cover on. Let's take a look at it if we can get it pulled up. There we go. I love this. A Heisman contender and Quinn Ewers, and it has a picture of the Texas football rivalry reborn with Connor and Quinn Ewers in front of it. But a little shot. That's absolutely to rile up the Texas fan base.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I have no trouble, no hesitancy talking about how good Quinn Ewers is. Quinn Ewers is really good, and I'll give credit where credit is due. It's like looking at Notre Dame and saying, "Man, that defensive line of Notre Dame is going to be flat nasty." I don't like Notre Dame, but I can see that, and their secondary might be even better. I can see that, but that's definitely just to gig the Longhorns.
But let's get back to the scenario for for A&M to finish better than Texas, right? That means the 9-3, 10-2 scenario. That means that Connor Wigman is probably a Heisman contender in that conversation.
Well, I think Connor, if he stays healthy, absolutely can be, especially if he gets blocking. Now, if Connor's going to have that kind of season, that means somebody in the receiver position
emerges,
or comes out of nowhere. So who's that going to be?
Wrong on the TexAgs chat says Texas was 1-2 against teams with less than 4 losses last season.
Okay,
so just a little ammo. Ross says Nuño, look at TU's depth. I haven't looked at it.
I just know what they have as their starters. I got to admit I'm not familiar with the whole roster. I know they think Anthony Hill's their best defensive player.
Yeah.
And that hurts.
Carson put some numbers up for us. Last year, entering the season, their preseason ranking was 11th, 2022, 7th, 2021, 21, 2020, 14, and 2019, 10.
And I wonder how they came out in all those years, you know.
Last year was good.
Last year was really good.
There was the, was it 9 wins the year prior? 8 wins?
8 or 9.
And then 5 the year before. Stark's first year.
And then they had to
get rid of Tom
Harmon.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, yeah, I understand Texas always, for some reason, gets.
I expect them to be good this year.
I do too.
That's not a shot. Like, I don't want people thinking because we're having this discussion. Would you today pick Texas to finish better than A&M as of today?
Yeah, because I've said that I'm going to go with 8-4 until they give me a reason to feel better about it, to actually start seeing something. But I'm just not on the. If you were to ask me, now Texas does have, like I said, an advantageous schedule, but I'm thinking Texas goes 9-3, 10-2 best. Again, you know, winning the Big 12 is a whole lot different than trying to win in the SEC.
Different animal. And Georgia is on your schedule. And can you stay? Not only can you stay healthy, but what does the grind of an SEC season do to you by the end of the year?
It's true. I mean,
that's where it goes back to the Ross's comment about depth.
Yeah, and it just, like I said, I thought of 4 games off the top of my head that they really struggled. I can't remember if they struggled against Iowa State or not. I might be thinking about that the year before. They did struggle against Iowa State last year. So
I have their schedule right here. Ask me any game, I'll tell you.
From last year.
Yep, from last year. I have Oklahoma beat them 34-30. They escaped against Houston.
Yeah, I remember that. There's a bad call that really helped them against UH.
I did expect for BYU to be better. They destroyed BYU.
Okay.
They beat Kansas State by a field goal.
Yeah, the coach decided not to kick the field goal and go in overtime.
TCU was a 3-point game as well. Iowa State was a 10-point game.
Okay.
I think that Iowa State had a chance in the fourth quarter, but Texas was able to finish.
So, you know, again.
And they destroyed Tech.
But you're going to, you're going to go into, quite frankly, again, if you play to that level that they played in so many of those games, you're going to pick up 2 or 3 losses.
Yep.
Because, hey, I don't care how bad it looks at Starkville, right? If you go over there not ready to play, it's going to be a bad day.
Well, later on in the program, in the Go Hour, I read an article, another clickbait one, that I'm just going to bring up, not to give them shine, okay, and not for us to get angry about, just to show that some people just write things to write things without thinking things through. Okay. So we're going to go over that here, and I'll even give you the headline: 5 most overrated college football teams ahead of the 24 season. I don't know if A&M can be overrated.
Yeah, if you're not rated, how can you be overrated?
But, I mean, so whatever. We'll get into that here in a moment. If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us up, text us 979-693-1150. What do you think about SEC Mike saying that A&M is going to finish above or better than Texas in the SEC? Love to hear from you. 979-693-1150. This is Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of mornings by going to texags.com/coffee. Me gusta cafecito. Let's go behind the glass and say hi to not Nick Savage, but the man with a mustache who was all over television on Sunday. Is that Sunday? What night was that? Sunday. Luke Evangelist. Good morning, buddy.
I think you mean the gritty kid. I was just
no. I saw you. Kid. I saw you multiple times.
I didn't mean to get in the shot. Then that's my bad, David.
That's all right, buddy. How are you enjoying behind the glass work?
It's been good. You know, Nick is teaching me up, doing good things, always keeping me ready and making sure he's giving me tests too. A lot of things to make sure I'm up on it. But yeah, it's been good. I've got a couple of notes about just some regional play, one of the most exciting regional weekends that I think I've ever witnessed.
In all your many years?
Yes, in all my many years. David, do I have your permission to get into that?
OB, let's decide this as a group.
Yeah, because I like his dad, so okay.
Yeah,
homage to dad.
I like Luke. I mean, in doses, right?
Yeah, kind of like,
tequila?
More to me like a dose of, cough medicine, but okay.
Well, cough medicine sometimes is good.
Yeah, if you have a cough.
Yeah.
OB, can you just button your shirt?
No.
One more button, please. You're making us uncomfortable.
I might button it one less, or I might just rip it down.
Okay, all right. We're going to take you off camera for that.
I just saw the tape from the CAT scan they did to you.
Sometimes you just can't contain all that masculinity.
Okay, all right.
I saw crunchy old hair. Okay,
all right,
go ahead.
You're done, OB. Okay, let's talk about the regional. All across the country, we had upsets unlike anything else we've seen. No 2 seeds advanced. There were a bunch of 2 seeds who felt they should have been hosting, like Duke, DBU, or Indiana State. None of them made it. First time ever, no 2 seed has advanced. The most 3 and 4 seeds ever to advance, there were 6 of them. 5 3 seeds, UConn, Kansas State, West Virginia, Florida, and Oregon. A&M will play Oregon. And then the lone 4 seed, the Evansville Purple Aces. How about those Purple Aces taking down ECU twice? Absolutely electric. There were no super regional matchups coming up that featured 2 teams from the same conference and a record-breaking 10 walk-offs in the regionals. There were 9 in the first 2 days. Incredible baseball action. A&M obviously played an instant classic against Texas, but don't rule out some of these other regionals that were absolutely action-packed.
I watched LSU choke yesterday.
Were you enjoying it?
No, I mean,
if there's any part of you that because your son goes there, like
I mean, if they're not going against A&M, or if they're in a game that will not, affect A&M, I don't have. My son goes there, so sure. Yeah.
Okay. Hey.
Plus, I want to see as many SEC teams in the College World Series as possible. I think it's I like the idea of playing teams I already know.
Look, we're way late for a break. I know we got to check in with Carson there at the Angry Elephant Youth and Social Center. We'll do that in a minute. And then I have a question from Garrett that I'm going to ask the show. We'll just kind of do it. Luke, good stuff there. We'll come back with more here in a moment. Right now, career opportunities at the Association of Former Students. They're looking to hire people. I feel like, man, they love to connect with the people out there and find great gigs for you. And you can do that at the association because they want to hire professionals to join their teams in marketing and fundraising and several other areas out there. They are the premier alumni association and the oldest organization serving A&M in support of that Aggie network. They play a part in every Aggie story from Howdy to here. Don't miss an opportunity to help out association with Howdy Socials, Aggie Ring Day, class reunions, Aggie Muster, and everything in between. Join a team that exemplifies those Aggie core values of excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, respect, and selfless service, all in support of that worldwide Aggie network. So if you're interested in joining a team or sharing with someone who would be a great fit, please visit tx.ag/associationjobs to apply and get more information on each position. It's the Association of Former Students. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, David Nuño, Olin Buchanan, and we go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson Stein is in the house. Carson, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, fellas. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
I got something from the text line that I think you guys will like from Brandon in College Station. He said, TU had a good season last year, but they really weren't world beaters. I genuinely think they were a 7 to 8 win team last year if they're in the SEC, and in all likelihood, they take a small step back this year. A&M was an average team last year with bad coaching.
They weren't even Washington beaters.
I think it's interesting because didn't they win their games when Quinn Ewers went down?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that happens in the SEC. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. We'll see how good Manning is, but
it wasn't Manning who
yeah,
came in. Yeah,
I know. This year's Manning. He was a kid that transferred before. Murphy.
Malik Murphy. Yeah.
Is that, where'd that come from? Do I think they went more than 8 games last year in the SEC? Probably more than 8, but not a whole lot more.
What else, Carson?
I wanted to also say Texas A&M's Adela Kernasek placed in a tie for 67th at the 79th U.S. Women's Open on Sunday at the Lancaster Country Club. She shot 15 over par after posting rounds of 69, 79, 69, and 78.
Is that Lancaster, Pennsylvania, or Lancaster, Texas, which would be called Lancaster if you're from up that way?
I think Pennsylvania.
Isn't that Lancaster? Isn't that where Wade Taylor's from? Maybe not. Maybe he's from up that way.
He is up that way. Here's Garrett's question for us. Can you guys compare TAMU's last season in the Big 12 to what Texas did last year into what to expect for the SEC? I think the difference is
A&M wasn't good and Texas was.
Well, and A&M had Johnny Football
the next year,
right? So that's we would not be enjoying like if the Johnny Madness doesn't happen, then it's obviously a much rougher beginning. It looks more like what the middle part of the SEC journey looked like.
Well, I'm not saying Texas is going to go fail in the SEC. I think they're going to have a strong year. I just don't know if I think that they're going to be this unbeatable. A lot of teams now that this is the team that can win the SEC. I don't think I'd go there.
Are they the second best
Their
team in the
schedule,
SEC?
It could be. Their schedule is, like I said, is certainly as advantageous as you could hope for. I don't think that's a coincidence either, by the way. But A&M, we had Johnny that year, but the previous year A&M I think won 6 games, but they were in the lead in the fourth quarter, I think, in like 5 of them, right? So they
and the last one that mattered.
Yeah. So Larry Jackson came in as a strength and conditioning coach, got them back on track. Much the way we hope Tommy Moffitt is going to do. And then you had Johnny Football, but you also had a really good offensive line like Texas does. Texas has a really good quarterback.
Yep.
But does Texas have the receivers that A&M had that year? And quite frankly, Texas's defense, I think, is going to have as many questions as A&M's did that year. You had DeMontre Moore and some good but not great linebackers and some pretty decent secondary guys. So
that team had what? Easy Awachiku, Jeff Fuller, Ryan Swope,
Mike Evans
on the 2011.
No, they didn't.
I'm talking about 2011.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, not Mike. Yeah, they did. The next year you had Swope and Awachiku and McNeil and Mike, and so that was an amazing group of receivers.
Yeah. Anything else, Carson?
I wanted to say Texas A&M soccer sophomore Taylor Jernigan claimed recognition as the Women's Soccer Premier League South Regional Player of the Week.
Okay. Congratulations to the Jernigans out there. Good family, by the way. I got to meet them during the season last year. Let's hit a break here. We'll come back. I've got the performance of the week to get into, and I'm sure you'll have a candidate or two. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to get into that most overrated football teams ahead of the 24 season.
Okay.
All right, we'll do that here in a moment. Right now, ground shuttle time. They offer frequent and reliable shuttles from Bryan College Station to George Bush Intercontinental Airport out there. You can commute in style and luxury. That's what they do. They have reclining seats. They have power outlets. You can enjoy the ride. You can catch up on your work, your emails. You can read a book while your shuttle driver takes you all the way there. Nobody wants to go park at Bush Airport. OB's done it. I've done it. It's not good, especially with all the construction they're doing. It's expensive. It's hard. You don't make it to the gate on time sometimes because of they got to go park far away because the close thing is full. Let them take care of you. It's a great place. They do 9 shuttles every weekday, every hour and a half, and then 5 shuttle times on the weekends every 2.5 hours. Excellent for business commuters out there. Or maybe you got some kids at Texas A&M that you need to get back to a different city or different state. Have them take you there to Busch out there. They also have charter service out there for in-town and out-of-town travel anywhere in Texas, door-to-door service out there. They're a local company, and they don't book anything unless they can guarantee it. They're going to take great care of you and their fleet, by the way. It's easy to book your shuttle online. Go to groundshuttle.com or call 855-303-4415. That is groundshuttle.com, 855-303-4415. Ground Shuttle. Let them do the driving. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. He's OB, I'm David. Let's get into the performance of the week. Many different layers. There's an easy one to say, but OB, why don't you give us one?
Well, I'm going to go for the guy that I spoke about a little bit yesterday, and it's not the low-hanging fruit, right?
Okay.
And I was still impressed with Caden Kent and what he meant in that game against Texas. Two really nice plays, one absolutely spectacular in the field, and then a key hit to get everything started. What was in the 11th, and scored what turned out to be the winning run. So when you get inserted into the game late and become as productive as he was, and such a factor in them winning the game, shows the depth of this team. And so I was really impressed in that game. What Caden Kent did, his contribution was really critical.
How about Shane Sadeo?
Yeah, he was out.
He was fantastic. Shane was so good in this game. 5 1/3, 6 hits allowed, 1 earned run, no walks, 6 strikeouts. When they needed him in a closeout game, he closed them out.
What a great coaching move to say, hey, you know what, something's not right here. We need to do something. Let's take this guy out of the bullpen and make him a starter, and the way he's responded. And, that's just a good coaching move.
Can we also give props to the ace who matches excellence every time he gets a chance, right? And Texas's pitcher was excellent. Well, he matched him just like he did against Arkansas. Ryan Prager, 6 1/3, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, both of them home runs, 4 walks, 7 strikeouts. This guy, you're just so comfortable with him on the mound. Even when he struggles on the first pitch of the game, he settles down. He's fine. He's easy.
I'm always confident with him. But how about Ossenbeck?
Oh, yeah.
Or even Cortez. At one time, Cortez struck out 5 in a row.
Cortez was huge, wasn't he? Yeah.
I mean, the pitching for the most part has been national championship caliber.
Well, how about the MVP of the series? I'll let Luke Evangelist tell us a little bit about what Braden Montgomery was able to do. Luke?
Well, yeah, I'm here. We're talking about Braden Montgomery, the B6 bomber. Averaged 400. That you remember all season that was his average. It's dipped a little bit recently, but when he hit that homer, it just felt like A&M's offense was back. Put the game away. Look at what he did for the whole series outside of just that one home run he had against Louisiana. 5 RBIs, 3 walks, and 1 run scored. The Bryan College Station Regional MVP. But more importantly, one of the main reasons why A&M baseball is moving on to the next weekend, and you hope to see that one more time, not just one more time, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more times from Braden Montgomery.
Well, you know what I'm waiting for?
What?
And I'm not going out on a limb here. I'm waiting for that game where Braden, Gavin, Jace, all three just go yard.
First of all, I like that B6 bomber. Is that a thing? Or
I think I've seen that.
Okay,
did you make that up, Luke, or is that's out there, right? I think I feel that.
Yeah, I've seen it out there before.
Okay, well,
I can't take credit for it.
Just take credit for it. Just say,
I'm late to the party, obviously.
There's no way to fact check that. Yeah, Luke made it.
The thing about Montgomery is, with the exception, I can remember one time where he kind of popped it up, and there might have been others, but and he might have struck out here. But most of the time when he was up, even when he got out, he was hitting the ball really hard.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, he was, and Caden Sorrell.
Yeah.
2 home runs, 2 games, and any ball that's hit in the left field, I don't care unless it's going over the fence, and maybe even then. I just assume Caden Sorrell's going to catch it. That guy's a vacuum cleaner out there.
Yeah, he was so good. He looks so young still. Well, he is a freshman. But you look at Gavin Grohovic, who looks like he's been playing college baseball for a few years. Right. A freshman. Caden Sorrell, a freshman. All right, let's get to that topic I teased early on. The 5 most overrated college football teams ahead of the 2024 season. This is from SaturdayBlitz.com. I'm going to give you the 5 teams.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give you a little bit of what they wrote about A&M. All right. And you tell me where you find the lie or the misinformation.
Okay.
Number 5, Oklahoma.
Yeah, I can see that. We just been talking about how it's going to be harder for Texas.
Yeah. They got a hard schedule.
Why would it not be? And they had like an offensive lineman. I think some might even say their best returning offensive line, who would have been returning, transferred to Missouri.
Yeah,
I think his name's Caden Green, and new quarterback. I'm sure Dari Noka is going to tell us Jackson Arnold's going to be a Heisman Trophy contender after they beat somebody like Directional U. But what about Oklahoma makes you think that that they're going to have a successful entry?
I should probably have what the preseason rankings expectations are. Are they?
I don't even know why they'd be ranked. What were they last year? 8-4, 9-3.
I think they were 9-3.
9-3. I don't know what they were, to be honest. Hell, they might have been 10-2 for all I know. But the same thing applies to when we're talking about Texas, man. When you're not ready to play, you're going to lose those games.
I have their preseason ranking if you guys want it.
Yep. From who?
From ESPN.
What do they have them at?
They have them right now as the 8th ranked team in the country.
8th? Oklahoma's 8th? Okay, well, maybe I'm sleeping.
Were they 9-3 last year?
Let me check that.
9-4,
maybe I'm sleeping on the Sooners then.
Double check that. I think they were
10-3. It's up there now. One of those wins. Did they win a meaningless bowl game? I don't know.
Yes.
So 9-3 in the regular season in the Big 12. Yeah, so I would put at least one more loss on there.
Yep. All right. So number 4 on their list, and I'm going to give you their information in a moment. We'll get through it. Texas A&M.
Okay. Well, again, are they ranked? Are they rated?
ESPN's way too early rankings. I don't. Well, this is from January. Find the most recent one.
Their most recent one that ESPN released from their FPI has A&M as 14th.
Okay.
Is that too high for them?
Well, the SPI is different than actual ranking.
Yeah.
Right?
See if you can find the preseason ranking. But we'll move on.
I personally would not, and I would hope nobody will rank A&M. I like the stealth factor coming in.
Even if they're 24, 25, I'd be fine with that.
Well, again, I've told you the reasons over and over.
Yeah.
If you could go win 7 games and be in a position to win all those in the fourth quarter last year with all the dysfunction that was going on, with the stability and the accountability, the actual accountability, not just the word salad of Jimbo, but the actual accountability, and the Tommy Moffitt influence, I think they're going to win more games than they did last year.
It has Penn State at 3, Clemson at 2, Miami at 1.
I would always put Miami number 1 in that case.
All right. But let me read you what it says about Texas A&M. Just slightly more overrated than Oklahoma.
Okay.
The Aggies didn't even make a bowl game last season. Is that right?
That's not true.
Huh. So a publication putting out fake news.
Because I was there.
And they're bringing in a brand new head coaching staff to try and turn things around.
Which is, I think, a plus.
Okay. The fixes in College Station are going to be quick and seamless, as many experts are expecting. And I feel it may be a struggle. It says F-O-E, not 4. So their editor missed that. For Texas A&M to make a bowl game in year 1 of Mike Elko. They made a bowl game last year. Again.
Yeah. I think a lot of people...
More.
Oh, go ahead.
Is it a knock on Elko? Absolutely not. He's one of my favorite hires of the offseason. And I think if anyone could turn a team around immediately, it's him. What? Bro, this is going everywhere. But Jimbo Fisher left a mess. Connor Wegman, he's a nice returning piece to lead the offense. He's just nice.
Just nice.
All right. But A&M lost a lot this offseason, including 5-star receiver Evan Stewart, who landed at Oregon.
Not a big loss, based on the fact that you have a guy returning who was more productive. Now, more talented? No, but more productive, yes. And what really matters?
I think the production matters.
Now, we talked about this yesterday. The 2 guys that I think they're going to miss and just miss terribly are Anaya Smith and Edrin Cooper. I don't think they're going to really miss terribly Evan Stewart, and I don't think they're going to miss terribly Walter Manoa.
I think we'll see what they do this year, right? I mean, could those guys under this new regime flourish? Absolutely.
Sure, but the fact of the matter is you can't miss what you didn't have. And you had Evan Stewart basically for 2 games. The first 2, one against Miami, one against New Mexico, went off. And the rest of the season, he just wasn't that productive. And Walter Nolan, you probably miss a lot of drama.
Look, I've said this before, and I don't want to make it a huge deal, but I'm not going to miss eyeball emojis and in my feelings tweets from players, and I'm sure we will still have it. That's how this generation vents,
how
if you will.
How
they roll, right? How they vent, but I don't want that out there. If you play for my team, this is my rules. And look, you want to have private conversations, don't be bigger than the program. Don't make it about you. Make it about us.
And maybe this is unfair because I did not know him personally, but it just appeared to me that Evan Stewart was everything you just talked about. A guy that is about him.
Which great wide receivers oftentimes do.
They do. But
you got to be great for it to pass.
Actually play, And I know there were some injury issues to a certain degree involved, but I don't know. Look, I'm fine going with Ja'Day Walker. I know he's not as, quote, talented, but what was the Steve McGee line about the best availability? The best ability is availability.
Availability, yeah.
And Ja'Day Walker is available. Evan wasn't always, and sometimes we could guess what the issues were or how serious they were.
Now, had this article and they lost Anaya Smith, I'd have been like, all right, yeah.
Yeah, if you start off with Anaya Smith and Edrin Cooper, you go, okay.
You got a point.
You got a point.
Right.
because both of those guys. I mean, that was your two best players last year.
But you can absolutely do that to every program out there.
Sure, you can.
You can find how are they going to do it without the two defensive linemen at Texas?
But let's be honest. I mean, let's if you didn't have Anias and Edgerrin last year, what's A&M's record?
5-7.
Yeah. So, but I do believe, and I really believe this, that the
and by the way, if Anias plays the bowl game, I think they win.
Yeah, they might have. Almost did anyway.
Right.
But if you give me, what I really believe is the presence of Elko and a new offensive coordinator and a new offensive line coach and a new defensive coordinator and Nick Scorton coming in and some guys like Ahmad Reed's is it Adams, the guy from Kansas, yeah. The influx of some experienced talent, and of course the Tommy Moffitt influence that I'm really high on. I think there's every reason to believe that you are going to be a better team than you were last year. 41
days, OB.
41? That's all?
Till SEC Media Days.
Oh, till SEC Media Days.
The
season's probably around 86 days.
But 41 days before talking season really takes on the new levels, right? And I look at life scheduling like this. Once you get to spring break, it is just fast, right? Because you got the NCAA tournament, you've got college baseball in full gear, SEC play starting, and that goes by fast. And now we're a little more than a month away from SEC Media Days.
Well, to me, it goes by fast if you're having success in the spring, like A&M had with softball and baseball and tennis and golf, and then you have things going on that you get excited about. Because I've been there also when it hasn't been. You're like, oh, God, what are we going to do until the season starts? Please get here faster. But, yeah, and like you were saying earlier today, if that baseball team can stay on that roll, it's 3 weeks. We're taking vacation those 3 weeks. Yep. And SEC Media Days gets here before you know it, and then we're started.
Yep. All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with some final thoughts, some text messages here on the Go Hour. If you're not able to enjoy this summer as much as you want to because of joint pain, what are you even doing here, bro? Go get some help right now. It's the best time of year of being outdoors where you can do all the fun things, fishing, biking, hiking, you name it. You don't want to have pain in your knees, your shoulders, or your back, if they are hurting. Don't suffer any longer. Non-surgical joint pain relief is here, and they do that at QC Kinetics. You should call them right now. Call them today. Absolutely. They are the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. I'm talking lasting joint pain relief with no surgery, no drugs, no downtime. These advanced treatments are going to harness your body's own ability to repair and restore that damaged tissue. So get outside with your family. Enjoy things. Go for a long walk. Go for a nice hike. Go play some golf. Move again, pain-free. Play tackle football like OB does every weekend. QC Kinetics is under the leadership of former orthopedic surgeon Dr. Mitchell Shinecup, who is a true pioneer in this regenerative medicine space. Their advanced protocols have been enabling tens of thousands of patients to reclaim their mobility. So stop putting it off. Take action now and live your best life. Call QC Kinetics right now for a free consultation. That phone number, 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. All right, it's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour. Let's go to the, brought to you by the CC Creations. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson, I know we have some text messages. Let's get into it.
All righty, guys. So we got Josh in Liberty Hill asking, how much of an impact do you think our wide receiver coach will make this year with our receivers? I'm hopeful that he will be what some of our receivers needed in order to be more consistent in their play throughout the year.
Yeah, based on his track record, I would say that he's going to get everything out of them. He'll get their ability.
Yep, I agree with that. But again, I'm not just basing it on him. It's a three-prong effect there. Wide receiver coach, strength and conditioning coach, head coach, offensive coordinator. All four of those levels, right? Yeah. I think, to me, that's where it all boils down to.
I think you'll see a lot of passes to tight ends this year, though, by the way.
Yep, agree. What else?
Buckets from Katie says, morning, guys. I have a feeling that this year we're going to win at least 10 games because in the past we lost some close games that we're going to win this year.
Well, I hope you're
Our
right.
favor just because the players will know what to do in those situations this time around.
You can't copy and paste one season into the next mentality. Like if we just, but if things are trending in the same direction of these games, I feel much more comfortable in the direction that the program's going at the end of games.
How successful do you think A&M will be this year, compared to last year, if you have an offensive line that if it's consistently 3rd and 2 or less, that you can count on that offensive line to get a push where you can pick up that first down?
If that 75% effective rate there, call it that, you go 9-3 at worst.
I'm not sure I disagree with you on that.
Yeah. I believe. Now,
and again, if that happens,
it's never as simple as one thing. We know that. But for conversation's sake, if this team could have picked up those 3rd and 2s last year,
3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2s, if you felt comfortable enough to just say, hey, our offensive line can knock you off the ball and get a first down on 3rd and short or 4th and short, then you probably beat Tennessee and you may have beaten Alabama.
Here's the thing. I just don't want to be able to predict the play and be right all the time. Sometimes it's cool. Right?
We weren't right all the time. We only had about a 70 to 75% success rate.
84% for you.
Which meant that the defensive coordinator, who knows a lot more than us, had an even better success rate than that.
But even if that happens, I want my team to be able to do it. All right, yeah, we are going to run the ball. Stop us.
Yeah.
Like, if we can predict, then I want it to be John Stockton, Karl Malone. All right, pick and roll's coming, but you can't stop it.
Can't stop it.
There's no chance he knows what I'm talking about,
I think they're going to be maybe.
Oh, I know ball, David. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Tell me about Karl Malone and John Stockton.
Karl Malone's like the 3rd all-time leading scorer in the history of the NBA.
Look at him go.
John Stockton's got the most assists and the most steals in the NBA.
Colleges?
Gonzaga for John Stockton. I don't know Karl Malone.
Louisiana Tech.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Could have been a Dallas Maverick.
Should have been.
Should have been a Dallas Maverick.
I was there. Mailman.
I'm not a mailman guy.
I am.
I'm a Barkley guy, so I felt like you had to pick one side or the other, and I picked Charles, and I still pick Charles.
Yeah, but the choice was between the mailman and Detlef Schrempf.
Well, in that case,
mailman.
Detlef Schrempf was a very nice player.
Nice player.
Not Karl Malone.
Right.
Thank you, Ob.
Bet.
When we come back on TexAgs Radio, Ross Dellenger going to be joining us here on TexAgs from Yahoo Sports. We'll get to his thoughts on everything. He's, by the way, been the top reporter on this evolution of college football. We'll get to that next here on TexAgs. All right, we're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. So this college football landscape or college athletics landscape, it's so crazy. And the guy who's been on the forefront of reporting and just been on top of it is Ross Dellenger from Yahoo Sports, and he's joining us here on the hotline to break it all down. Ross, good morning, buddy. How you been?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Yeah, you've been fantastic, man. It's just it's been fun to see you just break it all down and get the information out there. Is it fair to say, and I know you had a column about this, I think at the end of last week, we still don't have clarity with all the things that are happening. Like, it's just more information, yet still a lot of haziness, if you will.
Yeah. I was at SEC spring meetings in Destin. Was able to catch up with some administrators and university presidents and Commissioner Greg Sankey and virtually everybody that usually would have answers didn't. And so there's a lot of unanswered questions. And part of that is kind of expected. They're in the process of kind of writing what's called the long form of the settlement agreement. And they'll be doing that for another few weeks. And so they've agreed on a short form term sheet, you might call it, but it's more like term sheets because this is such a pretty in-depth, broad kind of settlement agreement. But they're doing the long form now. And so there's still an active, somewhat negotiations over what's in the long form and particulars around that. So a lot of unanswered questions that probably won't be fully answered until that long form is complete.
And once that long form is complete, there's still going to be a lot of questions, and this could be evolving. Do we still think the timeline of probably starting this new world is 2025?
Yeah, I would say that that the July, August, that whatever the fall semester for 2025 is the goal. It would surprise me if that were to change. The long form will probably be submitted, you would think, sometime in July, and then there's a bunch of processes that then happen. You have an approval process from the judge that includes a 3-month objection period for plaintiffs, so the former players, current players, to object to the settlement. Then there are hearings over those objections. So it's at least 5 months away for actually finalization of this, and maybe 8 months away. But if it gets much further, then you could see that altering the implementation timeline of a new model. I don't expect that, though. I would think that certainly by spring of next year, everything will be finalized, and you'll see an implemented model. Over the course of this process, this finalization process, the details of a new model will come out, and they'll be sorted out, and schools will know a little more answers to some of these questions over the next, I would say, couple months, as soon as they're through with the long form sometime in July.
Is this a Hail Mary, if you will, for the NCAA to get to this point? Because there was always this talk of football breaking away potentially. Is this like the last-ditched effort to keep everything in-house?
Yeah, certainly. One of the big things the settlement does do is for 10 years, the settlement's duration, it does kind of bind everybody together in the NCAA. So that includes the power conferences. So I think it's seen by many folks as kind of a binding agreement that make sure that everybody stays together for at least 10 years or so. So that's kind of one of the goals for sure.
Talking to Ross Dellenger here on TexAgs Radio. So help me understand some of the reasons that they're talking. Like, why roster limits? Why get rid of walk-ons? I understand that it's about revenue, right? And finding a new source of revenue to be able to pay this. But, like, why is that? And the coaches are obviously completely against it.
Well, I think, that particular thing it is kind of a complicated one, but when you break it down, you can kind of understand what they're doing. They're not just immediately saying, no walk-ons, right? It's not just a money saving thing. So I'll start kind of because it's kind of like a trickle down. So one of the things in the settlement is to eliminate scholarship caps and restrictions, because it is a restriction on athletes. And there's a thought that it will eventually that restriction will lead to another antitrust lawsuit against the NCAA. So how do you prevent that? You get rid of that, right? You get rid of that restriction. So they're removing the scholarship caps. Each sport has a scholarship cap. Those will be removed, replaced by a roster limit. And each sport will then have a roster limit, and those sports in schools can offer as many scholarships as they want on each team up to the roster limit, whatever that roster limit is by sport. So that, number one, is to eliminate the potential for more antitrust suits over scholarship restrictions. Now, how that impacts sports is kind of the second part of this. How that impacts football specifically and walk-ons is kind of the second part of this. If you are going to have a football roster of what it is now, which is around 120 football players, because of the recruiting environment and the competition in college athletics, you're going to have schools offer all 120 scholarships to their entire roster. And that means a few things. One, that means more expense, right? That's 35, 40 more scholarships right now. And then it also means 40 more scholarships, so a total of 80, because you have to balance out, because of Title IX, the federal law that requires schools to offer equal benefits and opportunities to men and women. You'd have to offer the same amount of additional scholarship for women athletes as well. So you do eliminate a lot of expense if you just shrink the roster to 85 or 90 or 95, whatever it may be, probably in that ballpark, in that realm. So kind of a two-part thing, right? They're eliminating it to try to avoid antitrust, eliminating the scholarship restriction. And when you do that, in order to avoid incurring a lot more expense, upwards of 80 additional scholarships, you shrink the football roster. Now, every sports roster won't be condensed like that. Like baseball is a good example, right? Their baseball programs have around a 32-man roster as far as scholarship players, and 11.7 scholarships. The sport is given 11.7 scholarships to spread over that 32. Well, baseball's roster might be 32, might remain at 32, but a school could spread, have 32 scholarships, basically. Now they would have to, add women's scholarships additionally to that. So it's going to be a sport by sport basis on the roster limit.
That's a great explanation. Thank you for that. So how close do you think we are to seeing sports eliminated at some of these bigger schools? Because revenue's got to come from somewhere. They got to pay for these players, right? So is that coming sooner than people expect?
I think at the highest level, at the major conference, you probably won't see a ton of sports eliminated. You may see sports, especially in the league like the ACC, where they have so many sports. I think they lead the country maybe in the average amount of sports sponsored by school. You may see them drop sports to club sports where you don't offer scholarships. I could see that happening, but a wholesale elimination of sports programs, I don't see that happening at the major conference level to the degree that some believe. I think that athletic administrators will look for other ways to cut expenses, or find untapped revenue streams, ways that don't end in lawsuits because eliminating sports could potentially end in lawsuits. We've seen that in the past. So look for ways that for athletic administrators to specifically try to find untapped revenue, which we've seen already, whether it's naming rights stuff or corporate sponsors on fields. That's probably going to be allowed going forward. More so, I think you'll see those things, and then of course the reduction in staff and salaries, as we've actually seen there at Texas A&M.
So how will collectives evolve? Because they're not going anywhere, right? Like they're still going to be around. There's still going to be NIL, obviously. That's why we're here now. How do you think it'll be evolved? How it will, the evolution of it, if you will.
Yeah, plenty of people think that collectives will just kind of poof go away with this new model, and they say that's not the case. The collectives themselves, I think that they, I think that there's an evolution going on with collectives. I had a story on this at Yahoo last week about the next evolution of NIL collectives, and I think it is them turning into marketing agencies, and that marketing agency could, in a new model, be permitted to distribute funds to athletes outside of the university, third party NIL that actually don't count toward a school's cap. So I think they want to exist in that world. The issue with that for them is, a lot of the deals now that we see collective strike, some consider fake or phony NIL. I think in the future, the way this settlement is written in this new model will be is you'll have a new enforcement arm that is going to be scrutinizing NIL deals maybe more than ever. And I think true NIL is a word you hear used with this new model. And any enforcement arm will include like a clearinghouse where this clearinghouse is supposed to, approve these true NIL deals, make sure that they're true NIL deal for fair market value. It seems like a difficult thing to do, but college leaders are pretty convinced that this will be something they can do moving forward, and it is going to be of interest, I would say, to collectives and marketing agencies to pay attention to how that works. But there's no doubt that the collectives are not immediately disappearing.
Talking to Ross Dellenger here on TexAgs Radio. Ross, have you had any conversations with Trev Albert since he took over at A&M? One of the reasons they hired him was because he could see the future coming and he had a plan laid out. What do you think about the job he can do here at A&M? Yeah, I caught up with Trev a couple times in Destin at spring meetings. We discussed all the things we're talking about here. Just the issues that come with the added expense of $20 to $25 million, and that's just the cap. That doesn't even include a lot of the additional scholarships that schools will add for baseball, softball, and whatever else. So we discussed how to go about that, and as he put it, college athletics has a not a revenue problem, but a spending problem. And I think the first way to stop that is to slow spending and reduce expenses. And I think we see him doing that, already there. And Trev certainly has a good reputation among his peers, I think, for managing an athletic department. And I think he's one of the ADs that, especially given what already he's done there, is going to lay more of
a path for potentially for how we might see other athletic departments handle all this.
I know you write a lot about the business of the college athletics, but what do you think about the Mike Elko era here at Texas A&M and what he might be able to do?
Yeah, I got to catch up with Mike at SEC spring meetings as well. He did just an incredible job at Duke, and I think if you can do that kind of work that quickly at Duke, get them going like he did, there'd be no reason to think that Mike Elko can't do that at Texas A&M, where you have certainly more resources and you're in a more kind of fertile recruiting ground, and you're in the SEC where down the line here you're going to have some significant increases in revenue and in conference distribution. So it's all kind of lined up there. Feels like it's been that A&M has been resource wise and footprint wise in a great position, and just hasn't gotten quite over that hump. And I don't know if he's the guy to do it, but certainly he did it good enough at his last stop that you would think he could.
Conference realignment always around June, July becomes a hot topic. Do you think we find out anything this summer when it comes to Florida State, Clemson, and whatnot?
I hope not. I hope to get a summer where I don't have to deal with realignment. It's been like 3 to the last 3 years in the summers of realignment. So I hope they can wait a little bit, but I don't know. I think it happening this summer would be a little quick, but I don't put it past them to make a move there. It would strike me as a surprise if they got out, free of charge, right? This thing feels like it's going to end in one of two ways. Either they go to court and play it out in court, and the judge decides how much they would owe to leave, or they settle in they're given some kind of settlement, or they agree to some kind of settlement the ACC does with either Florida State or Clemson or both to leave. So it would be a pretty stiff price, I think, and that's probably a tough one to swallow, which is why we could see it drag on a little bit.
Ross, last thing for you. For the average college football fan that kind of didn't like the direction that it was going the last few years with NIL, with transfers and whatnot, this new season that we're going to be entering next year, hopefully, should they feel better about the direction of college athletics because of the framework that's being placed?
Well, I think there's a thought, I think fans probably get frustrated most with the transfer portal and the movement of players. That is not addressed in the settlement, but enough is that you could see schools sign agreements and contracts with athletes that they're now paying. And those agreements could be multi-year. So in a sense, we could see the rate of player movement, I think, decreased a little bit and be limited because of those potential contracts. Now, athletes would have to agree to these contracts. But if that does happen, I think that's certainly a positive for many fans.
Ross, great work, man. Thanks so much. Hope to see you at SEC Media Days here in about 45 days.
Yep, thanks.
Thanks, man. Ross Dellenger, great work there at Yahoo. Appreciate his time. We'll hit a break here. We'll come back with an open segment. I actually felt better about the direction of college athletics. We'll talk about that. Luke can tell us his thoughts. Carson, and of course, you can text us at 979-693-1150. Hush and Whisper time. Father's Day special. Listen up here. You want to make your dad very happy? Come to Hush and Whisper. Take a tour and have a fun experience together. Now through June 15th, for every bottle purchase, get a polo shirt half off. There you go. Get a polo shirt half off from Hush and Whisper. Innovative distillery, cocktail lounge, founded to defy convention and distill true Grain to Glass Spirits out there. They're awesome. You need to go and do this tour. You don't have to wait for Father's Day. You can start doing it right now. Their white whiskey, 70% corn, 16% wheat, 14% malted barley. They got original vodka, and they have original gin out there. By sourcing the finest local ingredients and committed to the highest quality and production there at Hush and Whisper. When you go there, you're just going to feel like you're in a different place, right? It's in downtown at the Versco building where I started my career, by the way. They source only the finest local ingredients and are committed to the highest quality of production at Hush and Whisper. They want to make sure that you are enjoying the moment and experiencing it, not just, throwing it down, right? They want it to be more of an experience when you go to Hush and Whisper. They want to inspire moments of discovery, so you can reserve a tour, a tasting, or just a tasting. Book an event for meetings, celebrations, and team building. Again, Father's Day, now through June 15th, for every bottle purchase, get a polo shirt half off. It is open Tuesday and Friday, 2 p.m. to 11 p.m., and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., 219 North Main Street. Check out the website, hushandwhisper.com. That's hushandwhisper.com. Awkward. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. I'd like to get some thoughts on what we heard there from Ross Dellenger, who broke it down. Look, here's my thing about the whole direction we're going. It ain't going to be perfect, but it's going to be better than this, right? I do wish this settlement would have had more parameters in place to stop the unlimited transfers. And one thing we didn't get into that I wish we could have gotten into was, so are the student athletes employees? Because if they are employees, then you can, it doesn't sound like they're employees, then you can put parameters in place to, a contract, if you will, for how long they have to be in the SEC or a certain team. So that part, I still think it's way down the way, but I did feel better about, he explained it. Look, a lot of the legal jargon goes above Carson's head, my head, I don't know about Luke's head, but like some of it I'm like, just can we play football and can people not, just leave in the middle of a season, which they can't, but you understand my point there. So what are your thoughts on it? 979-693-1150. Luke, what did you think about what Ross had to say?
I thought, first of all, very well informed. Ross Dellenger is one of the best in the business. I'm really glad that we had him on TexAgs Radio. I thought it's definitely a different time in college athletics, and I think college football is taking the brunt of all these changes, and it's definitely a different time than I grew up watching, especially when you look at conference realignment, just different opponents, different rivalries. Some rivalries are coming back, and A&M obviously benefits from that, but a lot of the rivalries that I grew up watching will be no more in the Pac-12, in the Big 12. So in terms of that changing landscape, it's different, and I don't necessarily know yet if I like the difference, but I have nothing but to accept it because I can't change it and make it go back. But on the NIL, paying players, college football players potentially become employees, scholarship limits, walk-ons, on all that, I think that's way above my head, but I trust the leaders that we have in place.
Why do you trust the leaders that we have, Luke?
Because I trust Trev Alberts, because I know...
Oh, you mean our leader?
Yes, our leader, yes. In terms of the NCAA, I don't know who to trust, but I trust who A&M has in place because of the coaches that were on that committee, mainly Schloss, Joni Taylor, and everyone else. I trust what they have to say and what they think for the future of college athletics, so then, therefore, I'm going to trust Trev Alberts and his decision-making. So whatever happens with the future of college athletics in that landscape, I know that A&M will be in position to be well-adjusted and be one of the first colleges to not just adjust, but benefit on those adjustments.
Here's the bottom line. All we care about is winning, right? Like, look, I know we care about more, but if A&M can, in the football world, dominate during this era, it'll be our favorite era of college football. If they suck, we'll hate it. Right? And for other sports too. If Buzz and the basketball team find a way to, get to the Elite Eight, Final Four, we're going to love this era. If Schloss wins a College World Series this year, are we going to, it was a great era. So to me, I'm allowed to be selfish because I do a show that covers Texas A&M athletics, and that's what I'm passionate about. Can we survive? We can't change, we cannot change what's happening. Can we survive and can we thrive in this environment? And you could say we haven't thrived in other environments. Well, we are positioned to be able to not only thrive, but to excel and exceed expectations in this environment. We just haven't done it. And what Luke said, I think is right. We got the right people in place to take advantage of this opportunity. Let's just hope that the leaders get it more right than wrong, because they've gotten it wrong way too often. Carson, what text came in there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center?
So PG Ag in King Oat says, thanks for the segment. Really informative from Dellenger. He's the best in the business.
Yeah, he is. And he's not the only one saying that. I know Sutton had something. What else, Carson?
Love when Ross is on. I always learn something from your conversation.
Yep. And he's smart, dude. He
knows his stuff. It's way over my head.
And he's so connected. So I actually reached out to him last week whenever he was obviously grinding when he was in Destin, unlike OB, who was, at the Tiki Club, wherever he was partying. I'm kidding, OB. I know you're listening. You'll come say something. But he is just a grinder. All right, let's do this. We'll hit a break. We're going to come back with much. You had something, Carson? I thought I heard a little sound.
No.
I was just going to say OB still has not adjusted his shirt from when he came back from the Tiki Club. That might be the Destin OB that we're seeing in studio.
OB's got a Mike Leach vibe to him, like a Chip Howard vibe. Like he would absolutely thrive in a beach environment, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thanks for your approval, Luke. I appreciate that. All right, we'll hit a break here. We'll come back with Charean the Dream Williams next here on TexAgs. Right now, let's talk Aggieland Car Wash, your car wash tradition with the friendliest staff and the most personal touch. Aggieland's Aggieland is the first green car wash. They recycle 100% of their water. They have 2 locations. You know the original, William D. Fitch behind Shipley's in South College Station. And how about that new location, 2528 Texas Avenue South in College Station, right across from Planet Fitness. Both Aggieland Express Car Wash has all the services you want. Varying wash options, free vacuums and towels for your use, unlimited membership packages starting at $19.95. But the new location also offers a full-service wash. Newest full-service wash in town. Choose the full-service option, and the Aggieland Express team will take care of the cleaning, the drying, the vacuuming, the armor all interior, all completely covered so that your car stays cool while they make it sparkle and shine. Special deal. For limited time, they are inviting for you to try a full-service option for you at half price. It's normally $40, but we can get it to you $20 off if you tell them David Nuño from TexAgs sent you. So that means the $40 full-service car wash, $20 off. Tell them that we sent you here from TexAgs. Does somebody want to try that full-service wash at the new location at Aggieland Car Wash? If you are, call 979-693-1150. We're going to give one away right now. Caller number 12, you'll get yourself a free full-service wash at the new location at Aggieland Express Car Wash at the new location, $40 value. Call right now to win. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the hotline. We're joined by Charean Williams of Pro Football Talk and, of course, the Aggie great and the Hall of Famer. Charean, good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm good, except for you walking right by me. I mean, you were on a mission climbing those stairs on Saturday night I guess you were trying to get up to the press box. You walked so fast, I couldn't even couldn't even get out your name.
Yeah, you know, when I walk with a purpose, I get these blinders on and I don't see it. But I apologize. If I would have seen you, I would have stopped, given you a hug, and ran to my seat.
There you go. Well, you had to get to your seat and get in place for that one. That's for sure.
How was the environment for you this weekend? How great was it?
I was just telling a friend of mine, Marlo Thomas, we were just talking over at Sonic about just how electric it was. And I guess that's why A&M and Texas need to play. But it was tense. Like, I think I enjoyed probably, and maybe it's because the Aggies scored more runs, the Sunday game better. I was more relaxed. But, I mean, you're just tense that whole entire time because you just do not want to lose to Texas. I mean, but the atmosphere was totally amazing. And I'm with Schloss. If that was 7,700 people, like, I want that person doing my taxes too, because I estimated at least 10, maybe more than that, with all the people out in the outfield. It was just an amazing environment for college baseball, for any sport really. And I do know that's why I've resisted and haven't been all that eager to play Texas, but that's why you do it, because the atmosphere compared Saturday to Sunday was significant. I mean, people were excited Sunday, but it wasn't that same tenseness on edge, really just, geared up type feeling that it was on Saturday night. I mean, it really was. And I think there would have been more people there Sunday if it was Texas, and people would have, the atmosphere again would have been a little more electric than what it was. It was a good crowd Sunday, don't get me wrong, but it was just a different feel, a different atmosphere on Saturday.
Yeah, it was. To me, the most important takeaway, regardless of the rivalry, that is that I feel, and I hope I'm right, A&M found their swagger offensively again. There was something different about that game on Sunday. Like, all right, this is the A&M team I'm used to seeing from a pitching performance and offensively.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, and I really like seeing that. And I looked up at one point, we had 11 hits, and I said, all right, does every player except Gavin have a hit? And I knew he was coming up in the ninth. And I looked, and sure enough, every player had a hit except Gavin. And I was like, okay, I really want him to obviously get a hit in the ninth inning. He needs that to get going, and we need him to get going. And obviously that happened with the 2-run home run. So really happy to see him kind of get going again. And, it's amazing what one hit can do for you, because he's been hitting the ball, like, really hard, but just right at people. And sometimes that happens when you get in those quote-unquote slumps. Like, you're hitting the ball hard, and you're just like, can one of these please fall? And sometimes all it takes is that one hit to get it going again, and I hope that's it for him. We obviously need him to be hitting and be hitting well for us to do what we need to do this weekend. So glad to see that, and glad to see all the Braden came out of his, and just the way everybody hit. Yeah, everybody hit on Sunday, and that was really exciting to see.
Charean, I was shocked and sad to see the Larry Allen news yesterday. I know you had some very kind words to say about him. Gentle giant, better off the field than he was on the field, and obviously he was a Hall of Famer. Yeah. Just some thoughts on Larry, and I guess we still don't know what happened, right?
No, we don't. 52 years old. He's on vacation with his family in Mexico, and I saw his daughter said something yesterday or today about how devastated she was to lose her best friend. And he's the first player I officially presented for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and none of them have been easier since. And I made this point of, there's guys that you stand up and sit down and say, ladies and gentlemen, I present Emmitt Smith, and you sit down and everybody applauds, and Emmitt Smith goes into the Hall of Fame. And I've been a selector for 28 years, and there's a handful of guys, Emmitt Smith, Peyton Manning, I think Brett Favre was one, Bruce Smith was one, that people have stood up and said that and sat down. And it has to be a no-brainer. Like, you can't just do that and expect, even Ray Lewis didn't Larry Allen could have been one of those people that I stood up and sat down. I think he still would have gotten in the Hall of Fame. He was that great. But I had a 7 or 8 minute presentation for him, and then a few other people spoke up, and it wasn't long. But he was truly that great. And John Madden, through the Cowboys, asked to talk to me before I made my Hall of Fame speech. And, everybody thought, and he still thinks that John Madden is the authority on offensive line play. And he told me that the 2 greatest guards in NFL history were John Hanna, who played for the Patriots, and Larry Allen. And he said, I never saw a player who was eager to go up against Larry Allen, and I never saw Larry Allen lose a battle. And during his era of playing, he gave up 3 sacks per season, an average of, and that was the best average among players at his position through those years, and 2 all-decade teams and all of that. And after he made the Hall of Fame, so he finds out he makes the Hall of Fame, and I walk out, and he's standing there with some Cowboys officials, and he sees me, and he says, his eyes got real big, and he says, can I give you a hug? And I said, absolutely. And so he squeezes me, and I disappear in him because he's so big, and he lifted me off the ground, and he whispered, thank you. And I said, Larry, I didn't do anything. You did this. You got yourself in. You're one of the greatest of the all-time greats. And he truly, truly was, and played 4 positions and made the Pro Bowl at 3 different positions, which is just amazing to be able to do that. He could have been a great left tackle, but he was so good at guard, they didn't keep him out at tackle. They moved him back to guard. But he could have been as good at left tackle for his entire career. He showed that the one season that he made the All-Pro team as the left tackle.
Talking to Charean Williams here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Charean, let's talk a little bit about Devon Achane, or Devon Achane. I'm sorry. To me, he's still Achane, muscle memory.
Exactly.
Well, he's whatever he wants to call him, we'll call him because we love him. And I heard some comments from Mike McDaniel that they think that this offseason is going to be really good for him, for the understanding of what the offense can really be, and Devon to really take ownership of it.
Yeah, they have a lot of running backs, so I'm going to be interested to see how they use him, how much they use him, how they use all those running backs, what they do with all those running backs. That, to me, is going to be real interesting in that offense, and figuring out a way to get everybody the ball. But you've got to get him his touches based on what he did for you last season, just the breakaways and the big plays that he produced. He was electric, but it may do him a little bit of good to use him in some situations where that's just what you're looking for, is the home run, and not as an every down back. I think will be very, very good for him. Now, we know he can be an every down back. I'm not saying that. We saw it in that LSU game. He can run up the middle. He can run between the tackles, and he can do it all day for you. So, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But I do think that in the situations and how they're going to use him, I think it's going to be great for his long-term career. And I think he can be very good at that. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a big season for him. Staying healthy, obviously, is the key. He got nicked up last year and missed some games, and you want to stay healthy and stay on the field. And because when he does that, he is a major weapon for the Dolphins.
Let's talk a little bit about Tank Dell. I know you wrote a little bit about, he said he was at the wrong place at the wrong time when he got shot. What are some of the details? He went to go visit his family, and then his buddies were at a park or something to that effect?
Yeah, they were in Sanford, Florida, and I think it was a pool party, and it wasn't anybody related. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, totally. Didn't even know the people who got involved in the shooting, and just was an innocent bystander in that big party, and a disagreement broke out, and a 16-year-old pulled out a gun and started shooting, and I think he was arrested, and he was nicked with gunfire, and fortunately he's made a full recovery and out on the practice field, and so safe. But it tells you just how quickly things can escalate and turn for the worse, despite you not seemingly putting yourself in a bad situation, and sometimes the things just happen. And so, fortunately, he's in a good place now and has fully recovered. And you think about, though, how close he came to losing everything, losing his career, losing his life. whatever it may be. And fortunately, that didn't happen, and he's going to be, a good player for the Texans. And I think when you start ranking those trios of receivers, I think rank the Texans like right there. I'd probably put them number one. There's a couple other really good trios. The Bears certainly have one. The Bears have an argument to make that they could be the number one trio, but they have a rookie in that trio, where the Texans have really three proven receivers. So I love the Texans receiving core. I think they're going to be very good this year. Again, sort of like the Dolphins, you got to figure out how to get all those guys involved.
Look, I hate saying that I enjoyed Deshaun Watson struggling, and definitely not his injuries, but I enjoyed him not reaching a Pro Bowl level. But is he too far removed from that kind of greatness that we saw, a glimmer of it, based on it's been 3-4 seasons since we've seen it, but he's still only 28 years old. Joe Burrow's 27. So do you think Deshaun can get back to being a Pro Bowl level quarterback?
Well, you think about how few games he's played over the last 3 years. He set out one entire year, and then he played 11 games because we had 11 game suspension. I'm sorry. And then the next year he missed 11 games. Last year he missed 11 games with the shoulder injury, and so he's just missed so many games over the last 3 years. I don't know that we know what he can be. But now he's coming off shoulder surgery. So how is that going to go for him? I think there's a big question that coming off shoulder surgery, how obviously you're going to play. So I do think that's a big question of how he's going to play coming off that shoulder surgery. But yeah, we haven't seen it in a while. It's been a long time. They're committed to him because he's got a fully guaranteed contract, so he's going to get 2 more years with the Browns to see what he can do and see if he can get back to the level that he played with Texas. But I understand exactly what you're saying. I don't know if there's very many people who are rooting for Deshaun Watson outside of Browns fans, but we'll see what he can do. But that AFC, guy, you just look at all the quarterbacks in the AFC, and there's so many good ones. And even in that division, you look at, with Joe Burrow, and now Russell Wilson's in there, Justin Fields is in that division, and Lamar Jackson is the reigning MVP of the division, who's been, by the way, skipping organized team activities and missing a $750,000 bonus for not being there. But, that division itself just has such great quarterbacks in it. And then you widen it to the AFC, and they're just some amazing quarterbacks in the AFC right now.
Charean, let's close out with Justin Jefferson getting his big contract and what that means for others who will be negotiating there. CeeDee Lamb comes to mind.
Yeah, Jamar Chase are both waiting for one, and CeeDee Lamb is not at the mini camp today, which starts today. He is not there. It'll be a $101,000 fine. They can't rescind that, so he will have to pay that fine, but I'm sure he's fine with that, just like Zach Martin was last year when he didn't show up for it. And, it's the Cowboys needed to sign him. We've talked about this a lot. Cowboys needed to sign him before Justin Jefferson, the first team to sign the receiver, was going to get the better deal for team-wise, and because now Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb are going to want more than what Justin Jefferson got, and I don't know if the Cowboys are going to be able to pay that now. I think they'll have to go over $30 million, and how much over $30 million can they agree to? I think that's the big question. But are they going to commit to that money, or are they going to just say, we're going to let you play out this contract and we'll move on from you after this year? It's really, they've waited too long on Dak. They've waited too late. It's kind of become a history of theirs to wait too long to sign these players, these big deals, and now they're waiting too long on Micah Parsons. And the price never goes down. The price always goes up. Every day you wait, the price goes up, and the price is continuing to go up on Dak Prescott. It's continuing to go up on CeeDee Lamb, and it's continuing to go up on Micah Parsons. And, Micah and CeeDee are going to get somewhere between $30 and $40 million, whether it's with the Cowboys or somebody else. And I do think Micah will remain with the Cowboys. I think it's a question about CeeDee Lamb. And then, Dak Prescott's going to get $55 or $60 million a year from the Cowboys or somebody else, and I think that's a question too of whether this is his last season in Dallas or whether he signs a long-term deal with the Cowboys. But if they're going to get it done, they need to get off the horse and get this done before the end of training camp in August. So the clock is ticking on this, and they've got about 3 months to do at least 2 of the 3 deals. You can conceivably let Micah play out 1 more year, but shoot, he's making $2 million this year, which is obviously underpaid for what he does.
Charean, thank you so much for your time. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, David.
All right, Charean Williams, Pro Football Talk here on TexAgs Radio. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with a short segment. Schulte Roofing Time, an award-winning roofing company that provides industrial, commercial, and residential services to Belleville, to Brenham, to Bryan, to College Station, to Conroe, to Montgomery, to Navasota, to San Antonio, to the Woodlands, and all those surrounding counties. Schulte Roofing is the home of the Bulletproof Roof Guarantee. They are the industry's absolute best roofing system, roof installation warranty, and 100% satisfaction guarantee or your money back. Since their humble beginnings in 1994, they've been committed to excellence. That's why they're one of the top 100 roofing companies in the entire universe. They are so good. Call them up. You'll see them all around town. That's why they take care of so many different people. 1-800-4ROOF. That number again is 1-800-4ROOF, or go to SchulteRoofing.com. That's SchulteRoofing.com. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Real short segment. Look, guys, I don't have a hot sports take when it comes to the whole Caitlin Clark, Kennedy Carter thing. Like, I just don't care that much. I thought that it was a foul and it was wrong and whatever. Like, I've kind of moved on from that. I think what she's doing is cool. It's just not my thing. and I think she's definitely bringing eyeballs to that sport. And and Aggie's involved in the hard foul and whatnot, and it wasn't a good look. But sometimes in the competition, like, I don't know, like I get it. I don't get, like, I completely did not like what I saw there. So but sometimes when you're in competition, you do things that are stupid. I want a little humility afterwards, and a little like, you know what, I got that moment got the best of me. That's my bad. And that wasn't even in a play it wasn't even a foul on a play. It was like, I'm going to go do this because I don't like the attention you're getting. That part I didn't like about it. All right, that'll conclude our Caitlin Clark segment. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, Tom Hart, Caitlin Clark for the entire interview. No, I'm kidding. We will talk some college baseball with him, get his thoughts. He was at the Oklahoma State Regional that Florida ended up winning. Get his thoughts on that, thoughts on A&M, and I'm sure a football thing or two will come up. You're listening to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're back here on TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go straight to the hotline. Tom Hart joining us from the SEC Network and ESPN. I believe Stillwater, right? That's where you were?
Yeah. Stilly, as they call it. Florida represented the SEC well. Won that one in 7 games. A lot of fun, close games. Oklahoma State's a really good program, but they haven't gotten out of their own regional 3 straight years now. So playing at home must not be all that it was cracked up to be.
Well, what does it say about Florida too that people were shocked? They don't deserve to be in the field, yet they go in and do what SEC teams expect to do: win regionals.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was lukewarm on Florida during the course of the season. I thought they were overrated early on, and the experts who do the polls, they continually downplayed the midweek losses and said, "Oh, it's just midweek. Midweek doesn't matter in college baseball." I look at it differently. I think every game matters, and I think that if you're good enough to win your midweek games, unless I'm mistaken, I don't think A&M lost a midweek game.
They did
or
not.
A non-conference game.
They did not.
Right? Yeah. So if you're good enough to do that, you're an elite team. Like, you're an elite team with depth. And depth is really, really important when you get to this time of year. Everyone's dealing with injuries. Everybody's banged up. If your pitchers are good enough to go out and win on a Tuesday and Wednesday night, then you've got great depth and great options. So during the course of the season, I thought people were only focusing on the talent that Florida put on the field on Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays. And I think that's a mistake when judging a team overall. But by the time we got to the end of the season, relative to other candidates, especially at-large candidates, I certainly thought Florida was deserving of being in the field. I mean, the number one strength of schedule, they're incredibly talented. They played an SEC schedule, which saw them win a series against A&M, and they beat 3 of the top 6 teams in their series in the SEC, and they lost a series to Florida State. They beat Miami in a series. Anyway, the resume is what it is. The bottom line is that Jack Caglione is one of the best hitters in college baseball, not just this year, but that we've seen in a long, long time. And they're SEC talented. So what that means is this time of year, those freshmen that were on the mound in those midweek games who couldn't get outs, who couldn't throw strikes, have developed into what they really are, which is top prospects who just need a little bit of time. Those guys threw well for Florida this weekend and gave them a chance to win. So I think it's probably indicative of the talent disparity between the SEC and a lot of leagues. Quick example, Will Bolt, obviously A&M fans know him real well, is the head coach at Nebraska. And he had just said straight up, he's like, they got more talent. Like, they got more talent than anybody in this field. And that talent doesn't always win. But I think when you face like talent in the SEC every weekend, sometimes we lose sight of just how good these guys are in this league.
Alan Lucian reminds me that the regional times have been announced, by the way, guys. The Aggies will play Saturday at 1 o'clock, 6:30 on Sunday. Obviously, you're watching the Stillwater series, but able to keep up at all with what A&M was able to do this past weekend?
Well, listen, I wasn't able to dial into it in terms of the minutia of it, but holy smokes, everybody in college baseball watched that Texas game. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody. I don't know what the ratings are going to end up being, but and we ended up watching at Chili's. Oh. That was our go-to place in Stillwater. Options are fairly limited. If the Republic or Fuego or somebody wants to branch out, may I suggest Stillwater, Oklahoma? There are needs in that town for restaurants of that stature. However, circling back, so what a great display for casual fans who get introduced to the sport of college baseball kind of on a tier, right? And now we're getting to that tier where you're drawing people who go, holy smokes, that's cool. The bubbles, the fans behind left field, people hanging off the rafters. I think we got one ball 5 chant, unless I'm mistaken, in the Texas game. I think we only got one when I was watching. And I really wish it would have gone to a 2-0 count because it really ratchets up. But it's just, that's what sells the sport, is the atmosphere, the environment, the pageantry, the traditions, and mostly the idea and this feeling that you can feel like this game matters. That wasn't even a do or die game. And I was really hoping, just as a baseball fan and a viewer, that those two teams would have matched up again in a game 7. Because game 7s or game 3 this weekend, that's what you really grab the casual fan. Go, okay, this is it. I'm invested in this game. It's do or die. Somebody's winning. Somebody's season is ending if they don't win. But I thought Aggies represented themselves really well. I'm sure there was a ton of people watching last night, probably over 1 million people, which is a great number for a college baseball game. And it just looked like a ton of fun. It was good to see Braden Montgomery get a couple hits.
Yeah, it was good to see the offense kind of get their swagger back. So what do you think about the matchup with Oregon? Look, I don't watch Pac-12 baseball. I don't. I know that they're good. I know they've advanced many times. I feel like it's going to be a very difficult series based on everything the intel Bronny's been giving me about Oregon. But I like that they're not matched up against another SEC team.
I think that is very important. And I'm going to bear with me here because I'm going to dig up because I don't know squat about Oregon. So it'll take me just 1 second to get to them. But here's what I keep coming back to without showing my complete ignorance. But the talent difference is real. And what I mean by that is that the top third of the order that A&M has just on its own, I thought the pitching looked really well this weekend. But that talent difference is something that can overwhelm other teams. And playing in the atmosphere is something that can absolutely overwhelm a team like Oregon. They would have played Oregon State this year in conference. I don't know whether that was home or road. And Oregon State is a passionate fan base, but that ballpark is half the size of Blue Bell. And so I know that people absolutely get intimidated by that, and players who have never been in that scenario. You get a great pitching team, number one in the country in ERA. Wait, this can't be right. They're not. Oh, these are only teams in the field. Special thanks to the NCAA. Like, we get to the most important week of college baseball and they change their website. Hey, what are we doing? Why are we changing things? But they can pitch it. That's fine. And not to be disparaging, like, this A&M lineup we've talked about all season is legit. They're going to have a hard time navigating through that lineup. Even if you have an ace, you're going to have a hard time navigating through that lineup come even the back end of game 1 or game 2.
Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs Radio. We've got 5 SEC teams left out of the 11. Maybe a little smaller number than I expected, but that is the postseason, right? Like, anything can happen.
Yeah, I thought that, Mississippi State had a tough test on their hands going on the road to Charlottesville. Dakota Jordan hit the ball really well. It's good to see him get out of a slump because he was 1 for 26. Florida winning on the road. We talked about that a little bit. That was a good win for them. And the other ones that took care of business, I thought, like Tennessee found a way to do it without much drama. The biggest disappointment is Arkansas. And when you looked at Arkansas realistically during the course of the season, they had a red-hot stretch where they'd won like 10 out of 11. And they looked like not only an Omaha team, but a national championship team. They were swinging the bats well. The pitching was untouchable. But they're still waiting on a couple of guys to come around, some of their older guys who weren't really swinging the bat well. And their postseason opportunities were predicated on guys like Kendall Diggs, who was down in the 7 hole, finding his stroke and becoming productive. They never found it. They never found enough offense to give them some wiggle room if they weren't having a great pitching day, or if they didn't field it cleanly. And, they dipped their toe in the portal. I don't know how successful it really was in the end. I think that's, it'll be a flashpoint for coaches in talking recruiting with coaching staffs going forward, is what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong in the portal? How do we find the perfect guys? It's a shame because Hagen Smith was sensational for most of the year. I just felt like towards the end of the season, the lack of offense and Hagen Smith wasn't dominating like he had been was an indicator that was going to be a steep climb for them. what blew me away about it was that scene at their ballpark, and it was great. It was really good. And to get a team like Kansas State come in there, and K-State got hot, and they had a couple hitters who really got things moving. But that's a very disappointing loss and an underperformance for that program as a whole.
So I'm looking at these super regionals, Tom, and I'm like, I could see all 5 get through. I could see 4 get through. I think it's going to be a high number as expected, but let's kind of go through it. Tennessee and Evansville, Florida at Clemson, Georgia at NC State, Kentucky at Oregon State. Now, the Florida-Clemson matchup, I think that could be a very difficult one for Florida. But, again, the talent can overwhelm.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think Tennessee wins that one in 2. They've got a huge opportunity against a 4 seed and a home field advantage. Kentucky has never been to the College World Series. They're the only SEC team has never been there. I think this is only their 3rd super regional. They lost one on the road to Louisville like 5 or 6 years ago. They went down to LSU last year. They got smoked in game 1, 14-0, and game 2 was a little bit closer, but they were just overmatched, obviously, by that national championship team. So they got a chance against Oregon State. Georgia and NC State is one of only 2 seeded supers that we have because of all the upsets elsewhere. That's the only one where chalk is held, and Georgia has an incredible home field advantage. So I wouldn't bet against Georgia this weekend. I think that Florida has a real opportunity. Clemson's a great program, and Eric Bakich is an amazing coach. But if you dial in on their wins this season, their resume is deserving of their national seed. Don't get me wrong, but it feels like, as opposed to some of the best SEC teams, right? Like when A&M is at its best, nobody hung with them. When Tennessee's at its best, nobody's in the ballpark with them. Clemson feels a little bit more like Kentucky in the sense that they know how to win, and that is incredibly valuable, but they play a lot of close games. The run differential, I would guess, without doing a deep dive, is a lot closer for Clemson over the course of the season than any of the other top 8 national seeds. So that tells me that they're vulnerable. And Florida pitched fairly well this weekend, especially in the last 2 games against Oklahoma State, because they're getting some younger guys do things well. I think that to me on paper is the best super regional matchup we have, even though it's not a ranked versus ranked, 2 top 16 seeds.
Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner Jewelers. The Tyler Buchner story to me is kind of cool. When he was the quarterback at Alabama, obviously I wanted his demise, but that did not last. But I think it's kind of cool. You play at Notre Dame, you play well. Then you go to Alabama, you don't play well. You retire from football. You go to lacrosse, you win a national championship, and now you're trying to walk on as a wide receiver. I just think that whole story is an interesting one to follow.
I love it. I mean, that is, if you played sports, no matter what level you played, and there are a lot of, I don't know how you were. This is how I was. I mean, I wasn't good enough to be a Division I scholarship athlete, but the most fun I had was going sport to sport to sport and playing all season long. And those years, or those times of the year where the sports overlapped, I remember one time when I was probably in 5th or 6th grade, and I had basketball practice and an all-star football game and soccer and a soccer game, like all in the same day. Like that's what you want to do. Like, just where is the game? Who's playing? And so for him, not only to be talented enough to do this, but to have the want to after the grind that he's been through, I think that says a lot about him. And it's not easy, man. Like, being a Division I athlete, that is a full-time plus job. I'm excited to watch him play. It reminds me a little. Do you remember when Greg Paulus played point guard at Duke, and he finished his college basketball career, and he's like, okay, well, I got another year left. And so he went to play quarterback at Syracuse.
That's right.
Like, how does that happen? Like, how are you that good of an athlete and that dialed in where you're like, okay, cool, I want to give something else a shot. I think I'm going to go do this. I think that's awesome.
Tom, I wasn't good enough to play intramural sports, much less Division I, II, III, or IV. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. Nick Saban and Urban Meyer obviously are going to be college football Hall of Famers, but they just showed up on the ballot, which I don't even know how that rule works. Is it like, do you know, like, Do you have to retire? Do you not have to retire? Like, what's the rule there?
I don't know. I don't know how it works either. I was part of that ceremony a few years ago when guys like Orlando Pace and Tommy Frazier went in. And what was really cool at the time was like the nostalgia of celebrating guys whose playing career was so far in the rearview mirror. Like, if you ever get bored, just do a deep dive on Orlando Pace when he was playing college football. Like, it just absolutely dominated people. There's not much nostalgia there with Urban. Yeah, you can look back at the Florida teams, but he's still very much, in the limelight, as will Saban be on College Game Day, and just finished coaching. So usually Halls of Fame have like a 5-year period.
Yeah.
I think that's what Cooperstown is, right? It's going to be 5 years after you retire, but why wait? Like if it's going to happen, why wait for a guy like Nick Saban?
Where are you this weekend?
I don't know yet. I keep refreshing my email to try and figure out where I'm going to go. I do not know. I could go to a lot of places and be happy. I just want to go someplace where we get some good TV windows. I love close series. I want to see if we can get a game 3 wherever I go, because I love that winner take all intensity. So yeah, I'm happy wherever, man.
Let me go ahead and tell you, I don't want a game 3. I want 2 and done. That's what I want personally for Texas A&M. Like would make me happy, because I don't handle stress well when it comes to my sports teams.
I respect that, and I understand that. Like, just dominate and get it done and move on.
15-0. Why not? Every game, 15-0. I feel great.
15. Well, whether it's 15-0 or not, I really believe that they need to give serious consideration to a run rule in the postseason. We saw some absolute blowouts. It's tax, and I know why they don't do it. It's because, well, everybody's got to throw 9 innings, and it's a tournament, but at the same breath, like, if I'm good enough to beat you 30-2, give me 2 innings off of my arms. Like, I've earned it. And I don't think it's as good a product as it can be when we leave people out there that long.
Tom, great stuff, man. Thanks so much.
All right, Dave. Thanks, man.
See you, buddy. Tom Hart, SEC Network here on TexAgs Radio. We'll hit a break. We'll do around the SEC storylines next on TexAgs. Right now, though, we're talking heritage. We are talking heritage films. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. Let's get a documentary done for anybody. I don't know, Carson's dad, his granddad, the whole Yellowstone Ranch that they have. Like, I think that'd be a cool story to learn a little bit about how they had that property. They found that property. It became where Carson grew up. I think those are all cool things. And then Carson can watch and be like, I didn't know that about my granddad. And then he's like, Dad, I didn't know that about you. Like, you've told me, but I didn't really realize it. And then Carson's kids one day, if he has kids, can look back and be like, that's how our family got this? Yes, that's what you can do with a heritage film. It's awesome, right? You can tell the family story, and it's not just for you. It's for everybody around you, right? If you don't want the story about you, do it about your family name, your family business, your family ranch, whatever it may be. That's what Chance does at the highest level. Do it for like a cool event that you do with your buddies. If it's hiking, that's probably not something you want to do. But if it's a golfing event or whatever, like, it is cool to do, and Chance can be an eye in the sky for family celebrations. Tell that story in a 2-hour documentary form, which you will all love. You can also do a Yearflix, which is a 20-minute Q&A video that is more reserved for the youngers in the family. Find out their likes, their dislikes at this stage of their life, a benchmark video, right? And then maybe follow it up in a couple years and do another one, and then do one when they get their Aggie ring and when they get married. It's a cool thing to do. You get a 4-part series done. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341 is Heritage Films. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in here on the program. Got a text from Bob in Kentucky. He says, here's some stats for us to consider when breaking down A&M versus Oregon. And batting averages, A&M 299, Oregon 280. Home runs, 130 to Oregon's 93. Slugging percentage, 559 for A&M, 486 for Oregon. On-base percentage, 418 for A&M, 380 for Oregon. Walks, 378 to their 248. The ERA, 3.85 to their 4.62. And strikeout to walk ratio is 3.2 to 2.06 in the air. So there you go. Just a couple of the stats to break down here. And then Nick's got the other stats for the viewing audience to kind of break it all down. Or excuse me, Luke has that for us. So just a couple of thoughts there. John in Cyprus says, if we are being honest, has St. Nick ever allowed silly rules to get in the way if he did just petition to change them? Because after all, he is the czar of college football. So some thoughts there on Nick Saban. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Carson Stein has some SEC storylines to get into.
I do. So earlier we were talking about how ESPN released their FPI top 25. 11 SEC teams come in as the top 25, with A&M coming in at number 14. And then when it comes to the baseball side of it, 5 SEC teams move on, including A&M, Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky, and Florida. Speaking of Florida, Florida softball team took down Oklahoma yesterday, breaking their 20 tournament game winning streak. They face off today at 1 p.m. And as you were talking about a minute ago, David, Alabama head coach and former Florida head coach Urban Meyer headlined the 2025 College Football Hall of Fame class. Others include Tommy Tuberville, Mark Ingram, Michael Orr, and Josh Heupel.
Huh. Interesting. Very interesting.
So I'm not really sure how they're doing the criteria on how.
I bet you watched that Michael Orr movie like 5 times.
Maybe 4.
Have you watched it, or do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know. The Blind Side. Everyone knows The Blind
sure.
Side.
Like you just kind of glossed over what I said. Everybody's watched the Blind Side?
Everybody. Who hasn't watched The Blind Side?
Stevie Wonder. All right, continue.
Okay. South Carolina baseball coach Mark Kingston has been dismissed from the program following their regional loss to James Madison University.
Yeah. It's who did I see tweeting about that? Oh, Chris Phillips, who's going to join us here, was tweeting about that. We'll probably get into that at some point here with him. All right, what else?
Kirby Smart was quoted at the SEC meetings in Destin. He was asked about Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC. He was quoted saying, "It's extremely tough. I mean, the fact that they're in our conference, they're further away. They're a powerful football team. They've got a great state to recruit in. Both of their coaching staffs are really good and will cause problems."
Thank you to Kirby Smart for all that. Good stuff. Hey, I didn't want to go back to this, but I just want to make sure that I'm clear, because I don't know if I was clear earlier. Calvin says, Nuño, I hope you aren't excusing Carter's hit on Clark. That was a thug move, period. No place for that in sports. She should have received a harsher penalty from the league and more support from Clark's teammates. Carter didn't exhibit Aggie coaching traits. A couple things on that. I am not excusing it. I just don't care that much about it. Here's the one thing I wish I would have seen. A little more humility afterwards. That's it, right? Like, off the ball foul like that was a punk move. Nobody's denying that whatsoever, right? Nobody's denying that. I didn't like it. I don't know. I didn't cover her. I didn't get to know her, so I don't know her personality. I find it hard to judge somebody based on one thing. What she is doing, though, with her soundbite since then is not like, you know what? I was heated because XYZ. I shouldn't have done it. My bad, dog. And it would have been fine. Not fine, but it would have been. So that's where I am with that. As for the other things, no place for that in sports. That happens in sports all the time. Should happen during a play, not like as you're exchanging to the next play, but whatever. She should have received a harsher penalty. What penalty did she receive? I don't even know.
She got assessed a flagrant 1 foul is all I've seen so far.
So no fine afterwards or anything like that?
Let me get back to you on that.
Okay, get back to me. Support from Clark's teammates. Now that to me is like, so I'm bringing it back to how I raise my boys, my sons. I expect them to have their teammates back no matter what, and it needs to be clean. It does not need to be dirty, but whatever sport they're in, and obviously they're soccer players, right? When one of their teammates, especially the star of the team, gets pushed around, I expect them to be the first one there. That's just what I expect, right? So 100%. Like, you cannot allow your star player. Now, are there going to be some bumps and bruises when you're the rookie in the league? 1,000%, and that's just part of it. But I do think that they, I think it's interesting how much of, I don't even want to spend too much more time on this, but how much of the league is anti-her? Does that say more about her or about just the world that they play in? You found something for me, Carson?
I haven't found anything yet. It still just says only she's been assessed a flagrant 1 foul, so I assume that comes with some kind of fine.
Yeah, well, whatever to them. All right, as a reminder, the baseball game times have been set. I'm looking at it right here. The Oregon game Saturday at 1 p.m. at Olson Field, right? And then Sunday's game will be at 6:30. Monday, if necessary, is still a TBD. So in the dead heat, whatever, you know what I mean. That game on Saturday is going to be as hot as they come. In fact, Carson, while I'm talking about it, Google weather for if they'll even have Saturday afternoon. I'm assuming 98, 99-ish Saturday at 1 o'clock would be the guess if it even goes that far.
Hey, David, I've got it. It's going to be 94 to 98.
94 to 98.
And I bet you that UV will be somewhere in the 8, 9, 10 range. Good for tanning, which I know you're going to enjoy. So just a heads up, everyone, if you see David with a tanning mat and some tanning oil, don't be surprised.
Where did that joke come from? I'm just curious.
I have no idea. I just made it up as I went.
So you didn't give it a lot of thoughts, what you're telling me.
No, I gave it like
Am
a
I a
half
big
second.
tanner? Do I strike you as the tan guy?
You're definitely tan. I just don't know if it's like
Is that like a racial thing, or is that like...
No, I'm just saying like you tan. You're a very, very tan individual.
Am I a tan individual? Is that... Carson, are you darker than me?
No. There's no shot.
I just haven't pinpointed if it's tanning bed, tanning oil. We're going to need to bring in a tanning expert.
Let me go ahead and let me just ask you this. Do you think that I have enough time to go to a tanning salon and lay down?
No.
Do I have the white marks under my eyes?
No.
Okay. I don't tan. All right? I'm not going to even show you, but if you look at my farmer tan on my arms, it's ridiculous.
Right.
All right. Thanks for the bad joke, Luke. I appreciate that.
That was Nick. Nick has been talking. This is Nick doing a Luke impression.
All right. Can you tell me something about Caldwell Country Chevrolet in your Luke voice?
I know it's a really short drive, Brian, to Caldwell.
Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference?
Yep.
When you
step on the lot.
And do business where?
With Caldwell Country Chevrolet.
Yeah. Do you know they have great deals on their website?
Yeah, I did know that.
Yeah. You know they change them month to month.
Really? That's impressive.
Did you know that they have great trade-in value?
Now I do.
Yeah. You don't know what that means, right?
Yeah, that means like if you have a car and you want to trade it in, you get great value.
Yeah. And you know they have great pricing there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet?
Of course they do.
Yeah. What about the customer service? What do you know about that?
Top notch. You can't beat it.
What is something that they're known for?
That personal relationship. They just really want you coming back, and they're always looking out for you.
Yeah, but that sounds like a banker. But yes, the personal relationship is true. Did you know they have complimentary pickup for their service? And by the way, complimentary delivery as well. Did you know that part of the equation?
No, I did not, but I hope everyone else does.
You know, it's a 15-minute drive from the very edge of
Brian
to the beginnings of
Caldwell.
Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with
the guys.
Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online at
CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com.
Thank you. Welcome back into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the hotline. Chris Phillips joining us to break down all things here on TexAgs. What's up, Chris? How you been, buddy?
David, what's going on, man? I'm doing great. It was a wild weekend of college baseball, certainly in College Station, but all across the SEC. And, man, just excited for the Supers. And obviously the countdown to football season continues. So I appreciate you having me on, man. It's always a pleasure to chat with you guys.
Well, it's great to talk to you, too. I'm looking forward to breaking things down. So let's just start things off, Chris, with SEC baseball and what you saw from A&M this weekend. I've noticed a shift, right? Like, you do so much football, but you've really enjoyed this baseball run the SEC teams are doing.
Well, David, I'm a baseball guy at heart, right? I played college baseball myself, and I love the game. And, I tell people all the time, David, that during baseball season, it's baseball season. During basketball season, it's basketball season. But it's football season 24/7, 365 in the SEC, as you know. So, we lean into a lot of college football stuff, a lot of SEC football stuff. But with the postseason, of course, coming, that means ramping up with the baseball content. And we've dove in head first, man. I mean, I've watched more baseball. I watched more baseball probably this past weekend than I had, admittedly, the rest of the season combined. And it's just because, again, you get to SEC tournament, you get to regional play, postseason. This is, this is when it really matters. So it was awesome, man. It was a blast. I'm fully engulfed in the college baseball stuff. And it was a great weekend to be at the ballpark, certainly, David, but it was also a great weekend to sit back and watch Squeeze play. Those guys on ESPN do a great job, which I did, trying to keep up with 7, 8, 9 different games, if you will. But Texas A&M, wildly impressive. I wouldn't call it a ho-hum weekend because that game against Texas on Saturday night was as intense as you'll see across college baseball. But I thought outside of that one, man, Aggies did what I thought they would do, took care of their business. And I was really impressed, too, with the Sunday night game against Louisiana. I thought if there was anybody in that regional that could pull an upset, I thought it was them. And A&M just disposes of them. So Aggies did what I thought they would do, and certainly that game against Texas was the highlight. That was a heck of a game.
Talking to Chris Phillips, SEC Unfiltered here on TexAgs Radio. So from an A&M Texas perspective, that game was must-watch television if you're into college baseball. I even heard from people that aren't into baseball because of the rivalry. If that is just a glimpse, I mean, by the way, it's more than a glimpse because for Texas and A&M, that game, you do not want to lose the game too, right? That puts you in the worst possible position. But I felt like you could feel the energy level, even if I was there in person, but you could feel it even if you were watching on television.
Yeah, David, I mentioned this on social media that I don't know. After watching that game, and I know it's a postseason game against Texas, so that's the best of the best, one of the best environments you'll see there. But I don't know why Bluebell Park isn't mentioned more so with the elites of the elites. And I know it doesn't hold 10,000 like Duty Noble and Alex Box, and I get that. But watching that environment, I think the other thing, too, that makes Texas A&M really cool, and I haven't gotten the opportunity yet to experience Bluebell in person. That will change at some point. But all the different traditions, right? The ball five, I think I tweeted cue the bubbles more than a couple of times this past weekend with all the home runs that were being launched. So, I mean, you pair that all together with a passionate fan base that's smart, that knows the game of baseball. And, I mean, it was raucous, man. That was as an electric environment as I've seen all season long. And I saw some other people talking about it as well. And so I saw that and I was like, and I don't know why we don't talk about Bluebell Park more with some of these best ballparks and most intimidating atmospheres. So you knew Texas A&M fans would show up. And, David, I saw this just before we jumped on, somebody posting about that the tickets sold out for this weekend within a minute, the tickets that were available. So demand is high. It's going to be another raucous environment this weekend for sure.
Well, moving ahead, Braden Montgomery getting the MVP of that regional, I think is a great sign for us and a bad sign for the rest of their opponents the rest of the way. And then if Jace Lavalette follows up, and again, Gavin Grahovic got a home run, obviously, to finish off that game against Louisiana. Just your thoughts on the offense starting to heat up again.
Yeah, David, that was my biggest takeaway is that, Braden Montgomery is very similar to my favorite MLB team, the Atlanta Braves. He doesn't like the month of May for whatever reason. Just did not like the month of May. I think he was hitting like $150 or something in the month of May. But a guy like that is going to come along. And as they say, the great thing, David, there's a remedy for that disease that's known as the month of May. It's called June. And so June is here. And Braden Montgomery is swinging a hot bat yet again. And I mentioned that over the weekend. That is a really bad sign for everybody that Texas A&M is going to run into, because you already have to deal with the Jace Lavalettes and the Targaches and the rest of that lineup. You get Braden Montgomery going. I mean, there's really not a better top of the order you could argue in college baseball. You couple that with with what Ryan Prager and the rest of that pitching staff did. I mean, it's a complete ball club. And I talked about this with Ryan Brauninger last week, I should say, obviously a friend of the program right there with you guys, TexAgs. I talked about, I mean, you look at some of the best ball clubs in the country, Texas A&M is complete. They do it offensively, they do it defensively, they do it in the field. You get Braden Montgomery going, that's a really great sign. So Oregon does bring a quality pitching staff in. You know, I wonder if they'll be able to keep up with Texas A&M at Bluebell, but you know, Braden Montgomery hitting his stride when you'd most want him to.
Yeah, no doubt about that. But let's talk about that pitching staff, because if you're able to get what you saw from Shane Sadeo and Ryan Prager and Evan Oschenbeck, they should be in Omaha. If you get that kind of pitching with what we think the offense will do against Oregon.
I would agree. I mean, listen, the pitching staff, held their own. You look at that game against Texas, I thought some really high leverage situations, pressure packed situations, made some big pitches. And I mean, this is something Texas A&M has been doing all year long. And you give all the credit in the world to pitching coach Max Sweener. I mean, this is a pitching staff that a year ago was one of the worst in the SEC, and now they're one of the best in the country. So, like I mentioned, David, it's a complete ball club. I'm excited to see how they man the starting rotation going into the super regional weekend. But I mean, they've got 3 quality dudes. The back end of that bullpen, you know, seeing guys coming out throwing 97, 98 miles an hour. I mean, Texas A&M is as deep as anybody on the mound. And again, you complement that with a fantastic lineup. Life's going to be really difficult for Oregon this weekend. So I'm excited to watch those guys work.
What about the rest of the SEC? 5 teams left. Did you think that was a smaller number than expected, or about what you expected?
It was about what I expected, David. You know, I said before the tournament started, and I said this weeks ago, that I expected half of the field in Omaha to be SEC teams. So 4 of the 8. So we're kind of right on pace with that, right? 5 teams make the supers. I think there's more than a couple of SEC teams that I feel pretty good about their paths to punch their ticket. I mean, it's the super regionals. You never know what could happen. I mean, the big shocker's Arkansas, though, right? I mean, I don't think anybody saw that coming, them losing out in the Fayetteville regional. There's nothing that you can say to make Hog fans feel any better. It was a cataclysmic failure. It was an implosion. It was whatever adjective you want to throw on it. So that was the surprise, David, from the negative. From the positive, the Florida Gators. I mean, that's a team I've doubted week in, week out. You know, I admittedly a couple weeks ago finally just said, listen, they're just not a good ball club. They're talented. They're just not a good team. But we knew they had talent, and they're able to put the pieces together and take down Oklahoma State and Stillwater, come through the losers bracket, which showed a lot of grittiness and toughness. And Kevin O'Sullivan now has been at 10 supers in his 17 seasons there, which is just unprecedented consistency and high achievement there. And now they get Clemson in the super regional. So, I mean, again, it was a wild weekend for sure. I think there were some results that were expected, like Tennessee was very ho-hum, but you look at the results in Fayetteville and Stillwater, and I mean, college baseball, it never disappoints.
Talking to Chris Phillips here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. So if 4 teams get in, or that's what your prediction was, would you be surprised if all 5 get to Omaha?
I wouldn't. Now, I say that from the standpoint I wouldn't, that I think they're all capable, but this is baseball. So to expect the SEC to go 5-0 in their supers, it might be asking a lot, because I look at the super regionals matchups, for example, David, and it's like I look at it and it sets up well for the SEC. I feel like, you know, if we were setting betting odds, I think the SEC, you can make an argument, could and should be favored in all 5, but this is baseball. It just doesn't work out that way. So, you know, I think, for example, Florida going on the road to Clemson, that's going to be really tough. I do think Clemson's a high-quality ball club. Georgia, NC State is one that I'm kind of like, you know, NC State's kind of one of those pesky teams that you don't make a bunch of them when you look at them, but the sum is greater than the individual parts, if that makes sense. So, and then Georgia, it's like things were kind of dicey in their own regional. They did win it, but it was kind of dicey. So if they went 5-0, they're all capable. I'd be a little surprised if it was a clean sweep for the SEC, just because how unpredictable the game of baseball is.
Talking to Chris Phillips here, SEC Unfiltered on TexAgs Radio. All right, let's talk some football for a moment. SEC Mike, I'm sure you're aware of his work and what he said yesterday on the Paul Feinbaum show. He thinks A&M's going to finish better than Texas. Where do you stand on that? Because I think most of us here think that is a possibility, but I don't know if we're ready to go there just yet.
I think it's a possibility, David. I've said it many times, and it's not because I'm trying to, and I haven't dropped any predictions, obviously, or anything like that. So, you know, listen, I've always been of the standing, David, that when I go game by game, I go with numbers and analytics. I also go with my gut. So I very well may have Texas A&M finishing ahead of Texas. Would I say that and make that proclamation right now? Probably not, because I think Texas is for real, and I could see them going 11-1 or maybe even undefeated, more likely 11-1. Could Texas A&M get to 10 wins? I think it's possible. I think it's possible. I'd love to be in a position where I'm going to allow Texas A&M to maybe overachieve and feel really good about year one of the Mike Elko era. But, you've mentioned it many times. Others have as well. The expectations, they are what they are at Texas A&M. If you don't like it, you should go somewhere else. You can't run away from high expectations. And I don't think Mike Elko wants to. So, could I see Texas falling to 9-3 and A&M finishing right there with them at 9-3, maybe beating Texas to finish at the same mark, or maybe Texas A&M does win 10 games? I think it's possible. I think that's a pretty lofty statement to make. And I know Mike obviously loved his work. He and I have collabed on a lot of stuff. He's not afraid to state his opinion, which is why he and I get along so well. So I would say this, David. I haven't locked in game-by-game predictions. I don't know exactly where I've got each of these teams finishing record-wise. But is it the most unlikely thing to happen in the college football season? No. And we've seen much crazier. So, I'm very curious how both Texas and Oklahoma are going to get kind of humbled by the SEC grind. And, what Texas A&M is excited to welcome the Longhorns, especially that final game and that rivalry game. So it very well could happen. I'm not quite ready to say it will, though, yet.
Why are people and look, I have my own reasons for why I think they're going to do what they're going to do this year, but why are people so high on Texas this year? Is it based on a Big 12 schedule? It's not an SEC schedule. Then you look at Texas's schedule like, yeah, but is it really an SEC schedule? They get Georgia. Yes, they do. They get Michigan, which is not a part of their SEC schedule, obviously, but Michigan's not the same Michigan. But again, though, the grind of an SEC season, I think, for all teams, for Michigan included, for Georgia included, you just don't know how you're going to feel, week 5 on.
And that's the biggest difference, David, in the SEC is it's not about, people talk about the Georgias, the Alabamas, the, going to Kyle Field and Texas A&M. And those are very no-brainer. Yeah, of course, that's going to be a difficult matchup. But it's matching up against Kentucky the following week, or South Carolina, or Mississippi State, going to Davis Wade. And A&M has experienced this where, you're in the training room the same way the following day as you were when you played Georgia. It might be a little bit of an easier win, but it's a lot more of a slop fest, and it takes a toll. And those are the games that if you don't bring your A game, this isn't the Big 12 where you can kind of sleepwalk through the rest of your schedule outside of the big boys. Anybody can beat you on any given Saturday. But, I will say one of the things that helps, Texas doesn't have Oklahoma's schedule, David. Let's call it for what it is. They do have that game week 2 at Michigan, but I don't think Michigan's going to be what they were last year. Outside of that, it's Colorado State, UTSA, ULM, Mississippi State, which is at home, then a bye week before they take on Oklahoma. So they've got some time to get things rolling. I think Texas, too, what they return on the offensive line, what they return in Quinn Ewers, that's a great place to start. What they did in the transfer portal with their weapons, Isaiah Bond, Amari Nyblack, some of the other guys they picked up from the portal. Defensively, they have question marks in the secondary. There's no doubt. And also defensive front, they lost a lot there. So are they going to have the physicality week in, week out to, compete with the elites of the elites, compete with the Georgias, heck, have enough to go up toe-to-toe with Texas A&M in the last week? We'll see. I do think, to your point, David, maybe some get lost with the logo a little bit. I think some folks really want Texas to be back, so they just went to a college football playoff. And so it's really easy to say that Texas is back. So, but I do think the schedule sets up pretty well. They got those back-to-back games with Oklahoma and Georgia, but then it's Vandy, then a bye week, then Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky before A&M. So, again, they didn't get Oklahoma's schedule, David. It sets up pretty well for them, and they've still got tons of talent. So I think that's why most folks, I think they're almost locking in Texas as a college football playoff contender and someone that will be in that 12-team college football playoff.
Last thing for you, how big of a year is this going to be for Shane Beamer, considering, he was everybody's favorite a couple years ago, but, the reality starts setting in. If they're a 6-win team this year, is his job in jeopardy?
I think it is a huge year, David. And I would say as long as they can get to 6, because, again, the expectations in Columbia are not even what they are in a place like College Station. Winning the national championship is not something that is at the forefront. It is a wish, but it is more of a pipe dream than anything. But it's about, at minimum, having a program that I think is reaching that 7-5, 8-4 mark more often than not, and at least being in a position to where, because when you're going 5-7, David, you're not even remotely, you're not a piece or two away from winning 9 or 10 games. You are light years away. At least when you're going 8-4, you can justify and saying, okay, if we get a couple pieces right, we're knocking on the door of that 12-team playoff. So, David, getting to, after a 5-7, getting to a bowl game, it is a massive year for Shane Beamer. I don't think he's fired unless they go 4-8 or worse. So even if they go 5-7, I think he's built up enough goodwill there where he's back in 2025. But that will make 2025 the do or die year for him, and he will be on the hot seat. So I think getting to 6 wins is a must for them. I think their biggest game, probably that week 2 matchup at Kentucky. I think it's going to set the tone for the year. And they're kind of wondering where the SEC wins are going to come. They're going to be able to pull some upsets. You got Mizzou late. You got Texas A&M at Williams-Brice Stadium. They're kind of circling that one. So they're probably going to have to pull off an upset or two, I think, to get to that 6-win mark. You got a brand new quarterback, too. What's the offensive and defensive line going to be? So it's a pivotal year for Shane Beamer.
Chris, got to hit a break there. Thanks so much, buddy. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you guys. Y'all have a good one. Always a pleasure.
SEC Unfiltered, Chris Phillips there. All right, we'll hit a break now. Time for Factory Builder Stores, FBS Appliance. Their team of experts are there to help you with the appliances that make your house a home. They no doubt will take care of you, right? No doubt about it. Carrying brands that make your life easier with appliances to fit any budget. They've been taking care of Texas since 1988. They have all the trusted brands you can imagine with their expert staff and trained installers that guide you through that purchase, because FBS Appliance is your trusted appliance store, and they will take care of you in multiple different ways, guys. Obviously, they want customer satisfaction at the core of everything that they do, but they have assembled a team, and it's not just their sales team, right? They have servicemen and technicians that want to help you and make sure that everything that happens at your house is done to your standard, and that's why they do video to help them find out how the installation process will work. They'll have you kind of video it, send it to them, and they want to minimize all the disruptions out there. They're committed to delivering an exceptional customer service experience from start to finish there at FBS. Visit any of their 8 showrooms across Texas and find them online at factorybuilderstores.com. That is FBS, factorybuilderstores.com. Time to end the day with Double Dave's. Caller number 12, 979-693-1150. We're going to hook you up with your choice of a dozen pepperoni rolls or a large one-topping pizza from Double Dave's. Serving Aggieland since 1984 with your favorite pizza and world-famous pepperoni rolls. Reliable in-house delivery, bringing piping hot goodness straight to your door. Just click on doubledaves.com and your favorites are on their way. Guys, we went long with Chris Phillips, so we're not going to have a lot of time to talk about stuff. So tomorrow on the program, Bronny will be in studio as we'll get you ready for recruiting country and, of course, the super regional, I should say, versus Oregon. We'll have that on the show. Not sure about Coach Henry. Still trying to work that out, but we will see what we do from a track and field perspective because they are still competing. They are in Eugene, so we'll talk about that. Well, that's going to do it here for TexAgs Radio on a Tuesday. Tomorrow, loaded show. More info on that a little bit later. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We will see you all mañana.